All right, boys. So we started that trailer talk segment last week, and since then, 4 new trailers have come out. Is this coincidence, or are we just lucky?
I think
I
we're
think
just
we
willing
started
it.
it.
Yeah, we're willing it into existence.
Yeah,
There we go.
I think the world, and everything is kind of listening to us at this
Well,
point.
either way,
Listening to the
I'm glad they're
podcast.
back. I mean, we're getting some theatrical movies, some streaming movies, some movies that will probably be up for Oscars, some movies that'll be up for Razzies. If streaming movies are eligible for Razzies, I'm not 100% certain.
I think that's kind of unfair.
Yeah, because
Is
there
it?
really is so many bad movies on streaming.
Yeah. It's like steroids for Razzies. You
Exactly.
get a Netflix budget and you're doomed to put out a Razzie contender.
And then we also had the trailer for The Mandalorian Season 2.
Yeah.
Very much a teaser. I mean, it didn't really give us a great idea of what's going to go on in the season other than Mando trying to bring Baby Yoda, the child, back to, what is he bringing him to the Jedi, right?
The Jedi, the
Yeah.
sorcerers.
Yep.
That's the
So that's-
big thing I thought that came out of that trailer was that
Yeah.
Jedis are. I don't know. I'm wondering if the episode is going to be him just searching for a Jedi the majority of the time, and not actually one in the episode, or if Jedis are going to be a big part.
They'll mention him in the first episode. You won't actually find him until 4 episodes in. Then they'll separate, and then they'll appear in the finale.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a loose plot line throughout because, I mean, they have the stuff with the Darksaber and Moff Gideon, and obviously we know that there's a couple characters from Clone Wars coming into this, and it's cool. I like thinking of Jedis as sorcerers, just weird sorcerers that are out there, because that's all you are, Jedis. Weird sorcerers.
Getting called out, Jedi.
Did you guys pick up on on the special effects? How they seem completely better in every way. Just from what
I
we
just
saw
think
than
I think they look
last
good.
Season.
Yeah, I did kind of notice it. I guess subliminally, I didn't really think about it. In the fact that of how it looked last year, I just thought, oh wow, streaming. They got big budgets.
Yeah, I mean, and they're innovating filming too with their crazy soundstage with the dynamic background. So they're probably hitting their stride with that, figuring out what looks good and what doesn't.
I thought it was it kind of went beat for beat with the last trailer in the ending scene, where with season 1 it had the whole part in the bar where Mando fucks them all up, and then he gets that last really good kill. And it was very similar with this one, except for you're not seeing anything, you're just hearing everything that's going on, and then you see him get his last one. And I thought that was they know clearly what works when it comes to their trailers.
Yeah, and one thing I think they were more overt about, I can't really speak tonight, is that there's a lot of stormtroopers. There's a lot of stormtroopers. There's a lot of speed bike troopers. I like this. It's going in a really cool spot because it almost feels like
it's starting to go in a Force Awakens type.
It's like
direction.
The Empire's back again.
Yeah, with the first trailer, for season 1, it had the stormtrooper helmets on pikes and stuff like that, and everything, it was all dirty and stuff. But now you're seeing the traditional stormtrooper.
Yeah, and they kind of unleashed it at the end of the last season, where they just get bombarded by all the stormtroopers, and you got the stormtrooper with the flamethrower. It seems like the Empire is really pissed off and coming for the Mando and little baby Yoda.
The precious child.
He's a good kid.
It's nice to see Gina Carino is returning. She was one of my favorite characters. I really liked her.
Yeah, we got to look at her and Carl Weathers again.
Yep,
they're both back.
Carl Weathers looking a little gray in the beard, right? It's a good look.
I'm surprised Giancarlo Esposito wasn't in the trailer, but
I think you can't spoil that. I honestly think he's going to be a pretty big part of it throughout.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
But yeah,
they built that up.
There was
back in late October, so I imagine we might get another look. We'll get another look at it.
Yeah, I hope we get
it comes
a
out.
quick trailer before that. It's the day before Halloween, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
I wonder if they're going to air a couple. Is that what they did with season 1? They did 2 episodes the first week.
Yeah.
and then weekly from that point on.
Yeah, it was 2 episodes, I think.
But it was also it was like a weird fucking schedule. Like, wasn't it like an episode and then there was another episode like 2 days later?
Yeah.
Yeah, you might be right.
The whole schedule was screwed up between holidays, the release of Rise of Skywalker. Like, it was a really it wasn't just a consistent weekly on Friday show.
And I remember in the beginning when they were so close together, we were like, is that why they're 20 minutes right now? And they're going to be longer episodes later on? Or like, what's going on with this show?
No, it's really short.
Yeah. I actually went back and started watching it. It was last week or something like that. Dude, they're great. They're little bite-sized, fun things to watch.
They could have aired on Quibi. They're so short.
No, don't you ever say that.
Yeah,
Quibi.
It really is so short though compared to like a lot of TV, where you just kind of feels like a little YouTube commercial or something.
It's a little refreshing in ways because sometimes I can't just devote an hour to sitting down and watching something. I get itchy. I gotta move.
You have to do things.
But
live your life.
Start looking at your watch like, okay, I'm on to other things right now. And you're like, it's only been 15 minutes. I got 45 more.
For sure.
And then Universal dropped a trailer to their new horror film, Universal Blumhouse horror film, which completely caught me by surprise. As anyone who's been listening to this podcast knows, we became fans of the Happy Death Day series over the course of the summer. And the writer-director of the film has a new film with very much the same tone of Happy Death Day and doing a twist on a different sort of, I don't know, it's not a holiday situation.
Jamie Lee Curtis movie.
Yeah, they're going with a Freaky Friday situation here. But the film's called Freaky. It's a body switch horror comedy, emphasis on the comedy, where Vince Vaughn and he's playing a serial killer, and Catherine Newton, she was in Blockers. She's playing like the nerdy girl who's going to be like one of the first people killed from the serial killer. And then they pull a hot chick, a Freaky Friday, whichever body switch movie is your favorite. They pull one of those situations, and suddenly the serial killer is in the body of the high schooler, and the high school girl is in the body of Vince Vaughn. So hijinks are going to ensue. What did you guys think? I'll hold my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't catch the trailer immediately. I kind of saw it after people were talking about it on social. But I was really surprised. It looks like a lot of fun. Vince Vaughn, I mean, actually looks really funny. I haven't seen him in a different type of role in a while. I mean, it definitely has that Vince Vaughn shtick, but it's nice to see him in something a little different. It's kind of refreshing.
Yeah, it's not his usual comedy, I would say.
Yeah. The concept is really unique. I'm definitely in. It looks like a really fun movie.
Yeah, I thought it looked fun too. Very Friday the 13th meets Freaky Friday, which I'm cool with. Definitely felt. What's up?
You had told me that they were going to name the film Freaky Friday the 13th, right?
Yeah. Well, once I put it together that's what the two things that they were mashing up, I was like, this had to have originally been called Freaky Friday the 13th, and they just couldn't. There were some multiple rights involved that they weren't able to name it this, and they had to go with Freaky. And then I Googled it, and yeah, that was their original name. But yeah, I thought it looked like a lot of fun. Vince Vaughn is going to be playing the serial killer, but it looks like for the majority of the movie playing this high school girl trapped in his body. So kind of like a Jack Black Jumanji But yeah, I thought it looked fun. I thought Vince Vaughn looked, like as Corey said, looked pretty funny. Um, it definitely felt like it'll. If you liked Happy Death Day, it's very much in that same vein. So pretty hopeful for it.
JP, you haven't been a fan of Vince Vaughn in a while. You're kind of in the same boat as myself. What did you think? How did you think he looked?
He seems like a blob lately, but he does look like he's just sort of like an emotionless blob.
He's a husk.
He's a little bit of a husk, yeah. Definitely a husk of his former self. But he looks like it looks like he genuinely had fun filming this movie just from the trailer. It seems like he would have a good time. I was a little worried about it because I don't really like gore, but I didn't know it was from the director of Happy Death Day, so that makes me a little more willing to see it. But I mean, seeing someone get pushed down a table saw head first, I don't know if I want to see that. So for someone that's a little squeamish like me,
the death scenes don't like. They had the one where the girl gets frozen in like the cryogenic like chamber type thing, and like the fact that they were able to show it in the trailer, like the whole body like exploding, like when hitting the ground, means it's
that's
not
some
a very
Jason X shit.
Yeah, that's Jason X, but Jason X did it like gory. This one, like it looks. If you can make the trailer, it's definitely not going to be that brutal.
Yeah, so as someone that's a little adverse to gore and killing, it makes me feel a little more comfortable. Like it's something I would watch. Did it say where it was coming out? Is it going to be in theaters?
It's actually coming out in theaters.
Oh, really?
Friday the 13th of November.
Oh, wow. That's soon.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, okay.
So I guess studios are going to put their smaller type of movies in theaters now.
Fair enough. I mean, you could probably make Tenet money at this point.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing with this one is because it's Universal, you guys probably remember we were talking about how they struck that deal with AMC where after 17 days they can put their stuff onto VOD. So I feel like this is one of their first test case. Well, yeah, it's definitely one of their first, if not their first test case to see how that whole deal will go. I mean, it could be on VOD right after Thanksgiving.
It seems like a movie
if it doesn't do well in theaters.
It seems like a movie you download and watch.
And
really,
it's horror movies really only make money on weekend number one, especially when they put it on a gimmick day like Friday the 13th.
Yeah,
it's going to make all its money on day one
or Halloween.
It's it'll be an interesting experiment. And like I doubt I won't go to theaters to see it because I'm not going to theaters now to see Tenet, so I'm not going to be going to see this in theaters. But I'll definitely catch it on VOD at the end of November if that is the case.
Yeah,
I'll pay $5 for it.
But will you pay $30?
I don't know. I don't think it would be a $5 one. I think it would probably. I don't think it would be $30. I think it would probably be like a $15 or $20.
The price of a movie ticket.
Yeah, that's what I would expect.
That's not bad.
But we'll find out very soon. I mean, November's right around the corner. Speaking of right around the corner, the Trial of the Chicago 7, Netflix just dropped the trailer for that. We talked earlier this year about how Netflix got the rights for this film. It was supposed to be a big awards player for Paramount, but because of COVID, they knew theaters weren't going to be realistic for the fall, especially for like a smaller film like this. So they sold the rights to Netflix. It'll be in select theaters this month, apparently, but it wouldn't be in any big chain like AMC or Cinemark or Regal. It'd be in like the smaller theaters, like independent ones, and then it'll be dropping on Netflix in mid-October, October 16th.
Is this the type of movie that Hans Zimmer came up with that Netflix dun for the theaters, or is it?
This is definitely that type of movie.
Ooh, okay.
It would be like this and Mank. Those are their.
Oh, Mank's coming out in theaters.
Mank. Well, it's supposed to be like a limited one, and then on Netflix like a few weeks later.
Mm.
I imagine we're going to get a Mank trailer in the next week or two.
Give me that.
Since it's supposed to be an October movie. But Yeah, I mean, star-studded cast. It's something that's clearly trying to uh, be timely and grab in audiences based on the world today, despite the fact that when does this take place? In 69?
68, I believe.
68?
68.
Yeah.
And
68.
wasn't this movie made way before all this crap was happening anyway?
Yeah.
It's crazy, because I honestly would have thought that they greenlit this late and made it in about 3 weeks.
Exactly.
I mean, not in terms of quality, but just in terms of how timely it is. And it's just one of those things where I thought I was watching the news when I had it on, and I was not having it.
Yeah. I mean, Aaron Sorkin wrote this back in, I think, 2007 with plans for Steven Spielberg to direct it. That never happened. And eventually, now that Aaron Sorkin is directing features, he took his own script and directed it over, I guess, back in 2019. But the thing that I've noticed that I'm starting to see become a trend in movie trailers is them taking like a one line and then just like bellowing it and repeating it over and over and over, like ratcheting up the tension throughout the entire trailer. Judas and the Black Messiah did that very recently with theirs, and then there's definitely been other cases recently. But it feels like every time one trailer starts doing something and it gets well received, everyone just copies.
Oh, yeah.
It's like how Dune had the slow version of Pink Floyd in their latest trailer. We've seen that so many
Batman
times.
had the
Had
Nirvana song.
I mean, we've been seeing that one since I think Social Network was the first one that I can remember. It had
Radiohead.
Yeah, Radiohead. Oh, good.
Freak.
Good for you. Good for you, Doug. Yeah, ever since then, like that I've seen a million times over the last decade.
Yeah.
And then just ones trying to rip off like the Inception, like the wong, like that kind of noise. They all just copy each other. That was the thing that I picked up from the trailer. I'm just like, you're just repeating what someone else just did a month ago.
There's like 2 or 3 or maybe 4 trailer templates that when you're trying to get a trailer out, you can just basically download from wherever the hell they download these things and just put your movie in there.
Dude, I want to see trailers to start to do it the way they did it back in like the 80s.
Oh, God.
Where it just repeats the name of the movie. Like every like 20 seconds. It would just
this summer, the Batman. See Robert Pattinson jump from cars. The Batman.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's like 2 lines of dialogue. The Batman, and then over and over again.
It got to the 90s where hopefully we won't go back to 90s trailers where they spoil the entire movie. I've watched some of those recently, and it's just here's the entire movie. Go see it in theaters because you don't want to get a video camera copy of it. So go see it in the theaters.
Yeah, but
that would be great though. Let's bring someone back and just have them do the universal voiceover for every trailer.
And that Trial of Chicago 7 trailer dropped during, I think, the football game, if I'm not mistaken, on Sunday night.
I saw it Sunday night.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's nice being able to see trailers drop on TV for big sporting events again. That's fun.
Yeah. This is cool. I do like that. I mean, that was half the reason you watched the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
it's all
exactly.
the movie trailers.
It's funny. The Super Bowl this year, I don't think maybe more than one of the movies have come out yet that they had trailers for. I think Sonic the Hedgehog was like the only one.
Way to go, Sonic.
Yeah.
Probably made more money than Tenet.
Doug or Corey,
Probably.
Any of you have anything? Oh, it definitely did. Any of you have anything to say about Trial of Chicago 7? Or we can go on to the piece de resistance of the
I think we can. I think you guys touched on everything that I probably would have touched on. I mean, I'm excited. It looks just recently watched the trailer, so I'm definitely in.
It looks good, but I say bring on Hubie Halloween.
Yeah. All right, let's do it.
An epically long trailer.
This one I'm mildly excited for. I don't know why, because I just love Halloween, and it's a stupid Adam Sandler movie, and I I think about the gem that is "Don't Mess with the Zohan," and I always hope that he can rekindle that in some way, shape, or form. So maybe this will be it.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I'm kind of there with you. It looks like the best idea he's had for a movie in a while, but is the absolute stupidest character he's ever made. So it just tears me to bits because this could be a really funny movie, but then he starts speaking and acting, and you're like, why the hell did you do this?
The cameos just in the trailer, I'm like, I mean, it's just insane. Like, I saw so many faces.
Is that Kevin James with a mullet?
Yeah,
Yep,
like a
we got
beard.
We got Kevin James.
Is that the first reunion since Happy Gilmore for Julie Bowen
It is.
and Adam Sandler?
Oh,
I'm glad you noted that because I was going to say that.
Was Steve Buscemi a werewolf? Like a guy who turns into a werewolf? Because I saw him like growl in one clip, and then he jumped out of like a window or something.
I don't know, but this is like his
fucking
20th
hope
movie working with Adam Sandler.
I think Tim Meadows.
Those two love
saw.
each other.
yeah, Tim Meadows looks like he's in it. And you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of Ernest Scared Stupid,
Yeah, it does
I
have
can
a little
see
bit
that.
of that.
which is one of my favorite Halloween movies. But still, Adam Sandler, why the hell did you make this character? He just seems incredibly annoying.
He filmed this last year, like before Uncut Gems came out. So I know a lot of
Wow.
people are joking right now online because during the whole award season last year, he had joked, "You better like give me a fucking Oscar, or I'm going to make the worst movie ever made."
Oh no!
So people are like, "Oh God, is this the movie?" But I'm like, "Nah, he made this before Uncut Gems. So if you think this is bad, just wait till the next one."
Does he have another one in his Netflix deal?
Oh, he signed.
yes.
He signed a huge.
I
new
thought we
deal.
were already in I thought we were already 5 movies in at this point.
Oh, we're 5.
Didn't he
And now he re-upped.
He signed.
Oh,
Yeah, he
God.
re-upped.
God save our souls!
Yeah,
oh my
no.
God!
His
another,
worst
like-
is yet to come.
Oh, no.
But
Oh, you know what it'll do? He'll make a live action version of 8 Crazy Nights.
It's not a
Call back to the
call
last
back to last
episode.
week. That's nice. I like it.
And it'll be trash too.
He's practically as old as the grandma or grandpa at this point. You can't
So you
pass
just-
for the young version.
No,
He should just make a Zohan sequel, or make another Little Nicky. Why not? At this point,
Fuck it, yeah. Little Nicky too.
sure.
Here, do whatever he wants.
I mean, he
Happy
can.
Gilmore, too.
I
can.
think he
That's-
owns Netflix.
That
at
is
this
his
point.
Netflix deal. Is just do what you want. You got carte blanche.
Who the hell's
feel like-
buying Netflix accounts or subscriptions for Adam Sandler movies?
I feel
think
like
they
if he
still have at
somehow,
least. I think Murder Mystery is in like their top 10 movies on Netflix, if I'm not
that's
mistaken.
wild.
Good lord.
I mean, if you were looking a few years ago, probably every single one of them would have been in the top 10.
Yeah,
It wasn't until the past maybe 2 years that they started putting out
Good
higher
quality stuff.
Quality stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like if he somehow made a Happy Gilmore sequel, that would probably kill.
I mean, maybe. It'd be very bad, though, I feel
I
like.
mean, that's the type of one he could put in theaters if he wanted to.
Yeah.
Like, he can go
It's-
back to Sony and do one
Oh,
of
it
his
would
old
be awful.
deals.
It
But
turns
yes,
out
it'd be
it's Adam
trash.
Sandler's world, and we're all just living in it.
Fucking Sandman.
Who's he channeling in Hubie Halloween? I kind of got like a Bobby Boucher.
It's pronounced Hubie.
Hubie.
Hubie Dubois.
Halloween.
Who is
I
Hubie the
couldn't-
name of the character?
Yeah, he's Hubie Dubois,
Oh, okay.
which I would imagine he says hilariously. Why would you name him that if you weren't going to ham it up every time you said your name?
I'm
I
sure
couldn't, like, it
Shaq will
sounds...
say it in some goofy way. Everyone is
Oh, I
going
love
to
Shaq,
say
though.
Hubie
Yeah.
many times in this film.
I couldn't get what he was trying to channel, but it sounds like he ripped something off from a really bad movie, and it's bothering me that I can't figure out what it is. It's a little Waterboy-esque, but it's going to hit me tonight. I'm going to figure out what it is, and I'm going to be like in bed screaming at the top of my lungs at like 4 a.m. when I wake up in a cold sweat.
Well, the movie's dropping October 7th, so it's pretty soon. I know I will absolutely watch it because
Oh, I'm definitely watching.
I've made it a mission during 2020 to catch up on all of Adam Sandler's Netflix movies. I don't know what the fuck's wrong with me.
Yeah, why?
I don't know. They weren't as bad as I expected. I will give it that. There was a couple that I actually liked. Yeah.
Are you a grown up sympathizer?
Oh fuck no.
Okay.
No. Grown Ups 2 is his worst movie ever. And probably
Saying
in
a lot, man.
like the bottom 10 movies I've ever seen in my life.
Really,
Okay.
that bad?
Also, I'm pretty sure Shaq's in that one, and Shaq's in Kazam. Both of those movies make my bottom 10 of all time. So,
Kazam's your bottom 10 of all time?
it was the first movie I saw in theaters as a kid, and I was like, I didn't like it. It was the first movie I was disappointed of after leaving a movie theater.
Oof.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad, though.
We'll see what happens with Hubie, but we'll check back with you guys in mid-October to talk this film.
Yeah, I'm going to watch this when it comes out. That'd be fun.
Watch party. Let's go.
Yeah. No. I have to be able to pause and go outside and scream at the top of my lungs if I'm going to watch this movie.
All right, welcome everyone to Live, Breathe, Film, episode 15. You're here with Corey, Doug, JP, and Murph. Thanks as always for joining us. So our main topic today, being that football, both college and the NFL, has kicked off, is going to be discussing our favorite football teams in film. However, before we get to that, let's run through some news and what we watched this past week. All right, so first off, let's give a box office update since last week. If you were listening to our last episode, we talked about Tenet's first opening weekend and how it was a $20 million weekend, how that seemed okay and everything like that. But we didn't find out until later after we recorded the episode was the exact breakdown for how much it made from its previews, how much it made in Canada the week prior, and how much the actual weekend was. So overall, while it made $20 million over the opening weekend, it really only made like $10 million because of Canada and the preview screenings. So this past week, it really didn't do great. I mean, it held fairly well. It made $6.7 million. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not what you want out of the second weekend of a monster event tentpole film from Christopher Nolan. I mean, had I think a 30% drop, which is good if it had a normal opening weekend, like a 60 million weekend like Inception, or 160 million opening weekend like The Dark Knight or The Dark Knight Rises. Even a 50 million weekend like Dunkirk. But when you only open with really $10 million, that's not good at all for the second weekend.
So what do we think this means? Is Warner Brothers got to be worried about Tenet, or you think they just? I mean, you got to imagine it's going to keep dropping off as we continue on, even though they're going to leave it going for the next 3 months without really much competition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean,
I feel like it's gonna continue to to drop, but I mean, it shows that people they're still hesitant about going to the movies as a whole. Most people are still not going back, and then I think also the percentage of how they're filling theaters right now, just all of that is probably equating to this type of performance. I don't know if there's anything that they can do at this point. They've tried everything. I mean, it's just a loss like everything else.
Yeah, exactly. They tried something. It didn't work out. I think it's going to be an interesting road for this film, just because while it's going to have small drops, I would imagine consistently moving forward, it'll also likely have some increases during periods where theaters open up in New York City, in LA, and any other major metropolitan area that still has their movie theaters closed. I mean, that's where this movie was going to make the bulk of its money anyway, was going to be on the coasts. versus in Middle America. But I mean, it would have made more money in Middle America if people weren't scared of going to the movie theaters and they didn't have super restrictive guidelines on how many people could actually be in a theater.
Do you think though? I was just gonna say, do you think it has anything to do too with the critics' review of this film? I mean, they weren't bad by any means, but I heard a lot of complaints that were similar across the board, with the sound mixing not being great. So a lot of dialogue is lost to big booming sound on the soundtrack. I heard the plot, not necessarily the time inversion plot, but the spy plot is confusing. A lot of people walked out of theaters not really understanding what the hell was going on in that movie. So like a lot of the feedback I got, or a lot of feedback I saw online, was this is a good movie. This is a good Nolan movie, but it's not his best movie by any means. I mean, I know for me myself, I didn't feel like I had to see this movie in theaters as much after seeing those reviews.
Yeah, no, you bring up a great point. I mean, if this movie didn't have any like huge movie stars in it to begin with, like people are familiar with John David Washington. Well, probably not even that many people are familiar with him. They're familiar with Robert Pattinson, but it didn't have anyone on the level of like Leonardo DiCaprio or the reviews that Inception got. I mean, I imagine if Warner Brothers had tested this out with a different film, a more like 4-quadrant type movie that is going to appeal to the masses and not more like film Twitter, like super uber geeks when it comes to film, which are essentially the Nolan fans, it probably could have gotten more money out of something like a Wonder Woman 1984, or if it was a past Nolan movie like The Dark Knight Rises, or Inception. I think you would have seen a lot, even Interstellar. I think you would have seen more money come in. But the fact of the matter is the reviews probably played a part. It definitely played a part with, I think, all three of us. At least one of us would have been like, fuck it, let's take the risk. If it had been...
I would have.
Yeah, if it had been called like the next great Christopher Nolan film, which essentially means it's one of the next great films out there in the world.
I mean, I know the two of us would have gone and seen it, Murph, but it didn't seem, at this point, it doesn't seem like it's worth the risk.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, no movie's worth the risk of dying.
I know.
But it is.
But
I know what you mean. There are certain movies where I would have not been able to control myself and I would have taken the risk away.
Yeah,
I'll probably see
Dark
Tenet in
Knight
theaters soon, but I would have seen it immediately if it was The Dark Knight.
Yeah, if it was The Dark Knight, we all would have gone to theaters regarders.
Yeah,
I mean, not to say
100%.
Yeah,
we also would have been 21 years old, 22 years old at the time. So we absolutely would have been there immediately because we would not have been worrying as we are as 30-something-year-olds.
I still, as a 30-something-year-old, would go had it been like The Dark Knight came out around this time. Mm-hmm. But that it's kind of I guess in our minds at least there was kind of like a risk versus reward on this one. But we probably all would have seen this movie had COVID not been going on by now.
Yep,
absolutely.
So and then you look. Sorry, what were you gonna say, Corey?
No, I was just gonna say, like, do you guys think that this is gonna make Warner Brothers rethink when they're gonna release this on digital? Like, if they're gonna fast track that, or do you think they're gonna hold strong and try to squeeze as much revenue out of the movie theaters as possible? Because once it goes digital, then they're screwed. Like, I mean, then they can't really pursue the movie theater as much anymore, I guess, and maybe IMAX because it's like a specialty type of theater and viewing.
I think they are absolutely going to hold to the theatrical experience
till the end of the year
for a bunch of different reasons. They are solely responsible for movie theaters opening right now. If they break the window, not because of the pandemic, just because the movie's not making a lot of money, that would be the type of thing that could destroy relationships. with all the theater chains.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to imagine most theater chains are losing money now by being open.
Yeah.
So we might get to a point where they're going to have to close, like major chains will have to close in October because no money's coming in. And then they'll reopen whenever they reopen. But yeah, I don't see it coming to VOD, at least at least until 90 days after it originally opened.
Right.
But I mean, Disney went a completely different route. We talked about last week with Mulan and the whole paywall with Disney Plus in America. But I mean, even this weekend, we're seeing it open in China, which was expected to be one of the big markets for it, and it only grossed 23 million on its opening weekend, which is very, very bad for China. I mean, movies are pretty top heavy there, where you're going to make, if you don't make a lot on the first weekend, you can expect to kind of dump real down on weekend number 2. So
That's huge.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, I can't believe like how much that film is gross. I thought it was going to do better than that, in China, but I that was very shocking to me. Very shocking.
Yeah, and I mean, like we talked about last week, they have movies that are grossing like 200, 300 something $million in China. So like people are going to the movies there, but it has to be something they want to see. So that's now we're going to start to see for the studios that aren't pushing back their movies, but the ones that are willing to take that risk of starting internationally, they are going to have to be fucking sure that their movie is going to make money internationally. That's why we haven't seen James Bond get pushed yet, because it is a movie that has a massive worldwide following. So if it doesn't open, well, it's going to open in November around Thanksgiving. But if it underperforms here and say only makes $50 million compared to like the 200 million that Spectre made or the 300 million that Skyfall made, they'll do all right because they're going to make well over 500 million around the rest of the world. I believe Spectre made 800 million worldwide off 200 million in America, and Skyfall made over $1 billion. Despite making 300 million here. So, I mean, that is like a foreign franchise that can do well. But I mean, we're already seeing a bunch of movies get pushed back already just because of what's gone on over the past week. I believe we've had so far Candyman, which was supposed to open in October after already getting pushed back a couple times. That's not opening now until 2021. Along with the rest of Universal's horror movies that got pushed back, like Halloween Kills and The Forever Purge. But then Wonder Woman 1984, which we've talked about, was also supposed to be the next big release of the year, the beginning of October. And now that's not coming out till Christmas.
Yeah. I mean, after you see like the Trailblazers with Tenet and Mulan, and just seeing how they did box office or just monetarily with the direct to video or digital download, I mean, you get why they're. If I was a exec at one of these studios, I mean, I wouldn't want to put a movie out right now.
It's so much of an unknown at this point. I mean, you don't really know what the state of things is going to be even a few weeks from now. It's so much up in the air. I would do the same thing. I mean, if it's a movie that is somewhat of a potential big moneymaker, like, I mean, Candyman is that for horror fans in that genre, they make sense to push it. I mean, even Wonder Woman, I wouldn't be surprised if they end up pushing that out of this year completely. At this point,
I mean, I can't imagine December being much better than it is right now.
No, I don't. And even if it is, people are still, the stigma is there. I mean, everyone is just worried about going back to the movie theaters, rightfully so. I mean, everyone needs to be cautious. but this is how it's affecting, all of these big like tentpole films that are supposed to be coming out at the the end of the year.
No, I mean, yeah.
I don't know what's best. I really don't. It's pretty crazy. I mean, at this point, I feel like it's probably you're better off just kind of pushing everything out until, the first half of 2021.
Yeah, I mean, we're now hearing rumblings from all the major outlets that films like Black Widow will get pushed back again. That's supposed to come out in early November. That Disney Pixar's Soul will also, if not get pushed back, get moved to Disney Plus, either in a similar situation to Mulan or a situation like Hamilton. So either you pay or you don't pay extra for it. But yeah, there's going to be a whole nother bunch of delays because of this Tenet situation. I kind of see a situation where the only two movies that were expected to make like $100 million in America before this all happened would be Murder on the Nile and No Time to Die in October and November, and nothing else in September. Just because both of those are movies that have big foreign, that can rely on foreign money versus having to rely on domestic. But
I don't even know if something like No Time to Die would end up performing up to, just performing up to the point where it would make sense to release it this year. I wonder if it would end up being, I mean, not as bad as Mulan, but I wonder if it would end up being very similar to the Mulan situation where it's, drastically undercuts, what they were expecting.
Yeah, I mean I could see it making 50% to 75% less than what they would have hoped for in America. I think it's going to come out in America in November just because you can't put it out the rest of the world and then hold it off on it in America.
Yeah. Well, and the studio needs to make,
and they need
to make their money back.
Yeah, and they also can't put it digitally in America and put it in theaters elsewhere because it'll end up online everywhere. So they're kind of they're between a rock and a hard place right now.
Yes. Yeah, they are. I feel like out of any of the entertainment industries that right now, that exist, the movie industry is probably getting hit the hardest in so many ways because there's very little flexibility with what they can do, with releases and how they can make money on the films that they were supposed to release.
Yeah, they all have their different problems. I mean, you've got with TV, the problem is you can't film new product.
Yeah.
Like they had a backlog of stuff that could go out that'll get us out till the end of the year. And then with movies, you have a ton of product, but you can't put it out unless you put it out on a streaming platform. Then music, you can put out music whenever you want, but you can't tour it, which is where most artists make their revenue. And video games, I'd say that's the only one that's probably doing well. But naturally, it happened in the year where new consoles are supposed to come out. And it's tough to get people to pay a ton of money when this whole thing is going on. So
yeah, I mean, especially
everyone's screwed in their own right.
Yeah, I mean, with video games, at least you're used to things getting pushed out. So things that were supposed to come out this fall or this summer are getting pushed out till next year, and it's kind of commonplace at this point. With movies, it doesn't happen as often. So it's
and people still buy video games versus
exactly
movies. It's not like in 2000 or to 2010 when everyone was still buying DVDs and things like that. Now everyone just streams, so it's tough to make money on things as like a library, like catalog type film.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move on to another update in the world of streaming since we just mentioned that. I don't know if you guys heard, but CBS All Access, the streaming platform that is, I don't know, targeted to old people, I guess, because that's what I immediately think of when I think CBS.
Who subscribes to this? I mean, it's
Star Trek fans. I think it's Star Trek fans and old people. It has to be it. But they're rebranding already. It's actually been out for 5 years, which I guess time just really flies because it just felt
Really?
like it was a fairly new thing in the past couple of years.
Or they've just done a horrible job marketing it because I just
Yeah,
haven't really heard of it until this last
Past
year.
minute.
year.
I thought Star Trek Discovery was like what launched it.
And you had Picard, that was
Yeah,
also
we've
like
already
around
had
this
multiple
year.
Star Trek shows on it. I don't know when Discovery came out. Now that I've heard
Oh
this
my
5 year
God.
number, but they're rebranding to Paramount Plus, so they're going the route of just taking a studio name and adding a plus to it in the vein of Disney.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I wonder where they got that idea from.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how many other brands do
Apple,
this? Apple does it.
Apple TV Plus,
PlayStation for video games,
yeah,
they do
PlayStation
it.
Plus.
I imagine a lot of others are going to be doing. ESPN does it. With ESPN Plus, a lot of them are going to be doing it. I'm wondering when HBO is just going to become either Warner Plus or Warner Brothers Plus, and when Peacock will just become Universal Plus.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you're limiting your brand when you're only naming it after one aspect of it versus like the larger whole.
Yeah, and like Peacock doesn't make me like necessarily think of a brand other than maybe what is the Peacock, NBC?
NBC. It doesn't make
Whereas
me think
like
of Universal.
yeah, when you say Universal, it's like those are like classic movies that
Mhm.
you're also kind of incorporating when you use that studio name. So to me, like Universal Plus, I'd be more interested in than Peacock, and it's just like just the naming, like
Yeah, I
just
mean
the
the
way you
product's
name
gonna be
it.
the same, but it
Yeah,
just comes
exactly.
down to the name, and it just sounds more appealing. I don't
I
know
mean,
if
Peacock's
necessarily
kind of like a garbage name anyway, though.
it's not a great name. It's not as bad as HBO Max. HBO Max is like the most confusing fucking thing in the world.
It is. Yeah.
Well, you
it
got
is
like
so
HBO
confusing.
Go, and you got like
Yeah, it had
other variations.
HBO Go, HBO Now, then you got HBO the channel, but like HBO Max is just taking so many other different brands and adding it onto HBO, which are for the most part Warner Brothers brands. Well, I don't know why they just didn't go with naming it after Warner Brothers or Warner Media, whatever you want to call it. It's confounding.
Yeah, I don't know either. That it seems like a better idea because HBO is just such a more limited segment.
Mm-hmm. So you guys going to be subscribing in 2021 to Paramount Plus?
Nope.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah, I don't think so either. We were close to doing it when Twilight Zone came out, and we were just going to
Yeah.
split it and share our passwords. Was that over a year, almost 2 years ago at this point?
Didn't Twilight Zone come out last fall?
It came out around a Super Bowl. So was it this year or last year?
I don't know, man.
Thought
This
it was
year
last
is
year.
like such a blur. I
All right, so if it's been 2 years since Twilight Zone, then yeah, I guess it makes sense that it's been around a bunch longer
We'll have to
than that.
fact check that.
We will. And then one other thing to note about this is at this point, Sony's the only one that doesn't have its own streaming platform of like the big film studios since Fox merged with Disney. So Disney
I think
has
that's-
one, Universal has one, Paramount has one, and who am I forgetting? Disney. Did I say Disney?
You did, yeah.
Disney, Paramount, Disney and Fox, Paramount, Universal, and who's the other one? Who's the other studio?
Who are we missing? I'm not sure.
Are there only 5 studios now, or 4
Maybe.
studios now?
I feel like
because the Fox merger.
What about New Line? Who's owned by New Line?
It's
who owns New
owned
Line?
by Warner Brothers.
Okay. I mean, with Sony, and
Yeah,
it's funny
there's
you
only
say
5
this.
now. Wow.
Huh. It's funny you say this because I was reading a rumor that Sony is preparing to dip their toes into a streaming service, but they're waiting.
No, Universal. I didn't say that. So Universal, Paramount, Warner Brothers, and Disney all have them.
Okay.
So yeah, Sony's the only one that doesn't.
Sony's waiting because they want to time it and add it with PlayStation Plus added into that service and
Smart.
like have like So, but apparently they're preparing something, and it's going to be all of their properties, and it's going to be fed into, I guess, like PlayStation Plus, or PlayStation Plus is going to be fed into whatever Plus service that they're thinking of coming up with.
Yeah,
all encompassing.
exactly.
Well, they already have, like, PlayStation already has the online store where you can buy movies and stream them. Like, they already have that infrastructure there, so I imagine it wouldn't be difficult for them to launch into some sort of streaming platform.
Yeah, I mean, it adds value, so I mean, it makes sense.
So yeah, that makes sense. It'd be interesting if they lump that in with PlayStation. I don't know that I necessarily would do that if I were them, just because, I mean, what if you're not a PlayStation user and you just watch movies? Seems like you kind of limit your audience.
That's true.
They give people PlayStation Now subscriptions too on top of that, and you can play PlayStation games wherever.
We'll see.
I mean, it's kind of like Amazon Prime, like Prime Video.
Yeah.
How many people get Prime Video for Prime Video? They just get it for Amazon Prime, and then it's like an add-on. Do they even sell Prime Video as a separate service?
I don't think so.
You just have
not anymore.
You just have to get the year. I mean, yeah. I mean, you do the math. What is it? $120 a year for Amazon Prime?
Yeah.
So $10 a month. So yeah, I mean.
Plus, you get free delivery.
Dude, Amazon Prime's the best. That's just a great fucking deal.
Yeah. I mean, Apple just announced their all-encompassing subscription thing that they're doing, where they're lumping everything together, which is, so I feel like all of these conglomerates are doing it in some way, shape, or form.
They're just going to eat into one another. There's just going to be too many. People are going to be like, why am I paying for all these things? Like, it's like a new version of cable. Instead of having cable, you're just getting all these fucking streaming platforms.
If I sat down and notated all of the different streaming platforms that I pay for on a monthly basis, I would probably get sick to my stomach. Like, there's so many that I subscribe to. Thankfully, we feed off of each other in some way, shape, or form, in some ways with certain ones. But
what are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't know what you're saying, Corey.
Edit this out. We do not share passwords. Just kidding. We share passwords.
I think that we've gotten potentially better quality of shows off of streaming than we got used to get off of cable.
Better TV shows?
Yeah, better TV shows.
And I don't even remember the last time I watched cable.
I think we've gotten a more...
I mean, take AMC out of the picture, because they obviously had a great stable of shows, but...
I mean, are you counting HBO?
No, I mean, HBO is still kind of
I'll take HBO, FX, and AMC any day over all the streaming platforms combined. I think streaming does a good job of just giving us a lot of stuff that's pretty good, but they've yet to give us like one classic show yet. Like, they haven't given us Breaking Bad or Mad Men like AMC. They haven't given us a Sopranos, The Wire, Deadwood. I can go on and on with HBO. Or an Americans, Atlanta, anything that FX has.
Yeah, but
they will in a matter of time. They will.
Yeah, because I mean, it's whoever has the money to pay for whatever concept is out there, and right now it's an arms race between all the streaming services.
Yeah, and Netflix is still dominating that. Their pockets are endless. Yeah. I mean, we talked about...
Yes, they are.
I don't know if you guys remember, a few months ago, we talked about a movie coming out that was filmed during the quarantine with John David Washington and Zendaya called Malcolm and Marie. Netflix just won the bidding rights for that for $30 million over HBO, Amazon, Searchlight, MGM, Apple, A24, Focus Features. So they're still throwing out more money than most people are when it comes to product and content. But,
Yeah, I think a lot of things are getting made that probably wouldn't have been made otherwise.
And that I love. That is my favorite thing about these deep pocketed streaming platforms, is that we are getting things that we wouldn't have gotten otherwise. We weren't going to get The Irishman. We got that because Netflix was willing to pony up 200 mil. There's countless other examples, whether it's a film or a TV show. We've definitely gotten a wider variety of TV, which is great. So with that, I will concede to you, Doug. You were correct in regards to streaming and television.
Sweet. I'll take it.
And then lastly, we have an update in casting. So if you've been listening for the past month, we've talked a lot about Lovecraft Country. The lead on the show, played by Jonathan Majors, he has been cast in Peyton Reed's Ant-Man 3, coming out TBD. He'll be playing Kang the Conqueror. Corey, as our resident comic book person here, would you like to get into who exactly Kang the Conqueror is and why we should be excited?
Kang is actually a character that I'm not incredibly familiar with. I know him from, if I remember correctly, Fantastic Four, villain from Fantastic Four. So I assume that they're going to be use this to feed into bringing the Fantastic Four into the MCU. He's definitely a good pick. Like I said, I don't know a lot about the character, but he's definitely more of a cosmic villain. Very, very much like a villain that we probably have not seen before. Different than definitely kind of like along the lines of Thanos, where he's an alien, but not something that we've seen before. Definitely has more psychic powers, if I remember correctly. But I mean, I think he's definitely a good casting. He's a really good actor.
So I just Wikipedia'd him because I'm also not familiar with Kang at all. Apparently he's got no superhuman abilities, but he's just super smart, and he's a time traveler, which I loved everything time travel related. So if we're going to get some sort of traveling character, I think that's opens up the door for some more.
What's the character's
cool stuff.
actual name?
Well, his name is Nathan. I think Nathan or Nathaniel Richards. He's a descendant, Reed Richards is a descendant of him because he comes from the future.
Gotcha.
So that's the gist of what I remember about him. I know
So that'd be a good setup then for Fantastic Four.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure I've read that Peyton Reed, his dream job would be Fantastic Four, if I'm not mistaken. So
give it to him.
I don't want him to get it.
That he would want this character to be involved.
I know
it's perfect. It's perfect timing with them just acquiring. I mean, it's not perfect timing. It's only because they got the Foxx rights.
Now that I think about it, also I think his time travel technology is connected in some way to Victor Von Doom. So that I think is probably, they're definitely starting to build Fantastic Four, because I know those two. I know Reed Richards and Victor Von Doom are definitely main characters that feed off of him, his introduction in the comics. So
yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily want Peyton Reed to do the Fantastic Four because I don't love him as a director. I think Ant-Man's an okay movie. It's serviceable.
I think that the way that he brings Ant-Man to life, and that witty and more comedic side, I think that would play really well for Fantastic Four. At least I think so. I mean, you could always get Josh Trank back and have him, have another shot and do Fantastic Four again.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that
I don't think it'll happen, but
give us the Trank cut.
Could always dream. But I mean, I don't know anything about the character. I heard he's Reed Richards' father, so I mean, immediately my thought went to, oh, you going to have the balls to have a black Mr. Fantastic? I would think they will based on this casting. But it'll be fun to watch the internet go up in arms over something they shouldn't go up in arms over. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and
discourse.
They're sharpening their pitchforks.
And I say discourse sarcastically because it's going to be a fucking shit show.
Yeah. I mean, he's gone up against the Avengers, so like they could use him for a lot of different things. So.
That just fucks up if that might fuck up the whole John Krasinski, Emily Blunt thing. I just realized.
That's what I'm
not going to cry about it, but I know people were looking for those two in those roles.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure Marvel could contort themselves to make it work somehow with Krasinski anyway. But maybe not. Maybe they are going to go towards a black Mr. Fantastic, which I think would be, like you said, interesting to watch the internet just like lose their minds over. But as far as casting goes for Kang the Conqueror, I mean, I think we've all watched Lovecraft Country. We all think Jonathan Majors is a good actor and will likely do a good job with Kang the Conqueror.
Definitely.
All right. Let's move on from news and head into what we watched over this past week. Corey, I was going through our past episodes, and I believe, Doug, you talked about Corey's film back in one of the first episodes we ever did.
I knew someone did.
Wow.
So let's hear what your latest thoughts are, Corey, on Jojo Rabbit.
Yeah, I mean, Murph, as you know, we saw this in theaters back, was it last year at this point? Or was it even this year? I don't even remember.
It was last year.
Yeah. So this is the second time I've seen it. And I enjoyed it a lot the first time, but I picked up on a lot more things the second time around. What an awesome movie, and just a great overall performance from everyone in the cast. And it's just, obviously for the subject matter, it's touchy in a lot of ways, but it, really takes this history, these historical things that happened, and bring something positive out of it, and just tells a really uplifting story, especially towards the end. I just shows how great of a director and writer Taika is. I feel like the guy can really write anything.
Yeah, I was just thinking about how we had seen it back in theaters last October. I saw it a second time in theaters. I think it was like right around the time of the Academy Awards, so like February. Mm-hmm. And then it was just funny to think, like 4 weeks later, everything would be different. But no longer be going to the movie theaters.
Was that only really 4 weeks before? Because I saw it when they released it for the Academy Awards.
I believe it was like February, like early February, mid-February.
Wow.
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild.
I'm just nostalgic about
movie theaters,
COVID times, and how much whimsy the world had, and how much promise.
Yeah, I saw that movie.
What a year.
I was next. I'll never forget. I was next to this like older couple that had no idea what movie they had. Like they must have just like heard good things about it, but like had no idea what they were walking into. And I was sitting next to the wife, and then the husband was next to her, and I could just like partway through the movie, I could just hear her whispering like, "This movie's stupid. Like, we need to leave."
Dude, and you lived down in Boca at the time. It was probably an old married Jewish couple.
It's very possible in Boca.
Yeah, I mean,
they were probably offended more than anything.
Yeah, it's a very touchy subject.
She seemed more annoyed that she thought it was stupid rather than like she was offended. But I'd say they didn't make it further than like halfway through the movie before they were gone.
It's a shame.
Just like walked out.
The one parallel for me that I don't remember if I mentioned this when we saw it the first time, but I was thinking about it when I watched it this past week. It reminded me a lot of like a Mel Brooks film, like a Blazing Saddles. Like it felt like it was channeling that type of humor where it's just trying, it's trying to push the boundaries of comedy, and in a lot of ways get people to think, and just try to make fun of each other, make fun of everyone, and it had that type of like intelligent comedy that just reminded me of those types of films in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it was ballsy. I mean, it had elements of satire throughout.
Yeah.
It didn't have like
It was
I don't think it had the so much of like the parody type humor of Mel Brooks, but it definitely had the timely satire and things like that he brought to the table.
And it's funny because I watched it with my girlfriend. She didn't know anything. I mean, she saw the trailers for the movie, but that was mostly it. Like it was an interest, but didn't see it. So went into it very blind, and she loved it, but did not really know where the movie was going to be going in a lot of ways. Just knew that it took place during World War II and this and that, and she thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
what a great performance by the kids.
that's what I was gonna say. The kids just knock it out of the park in that movie.
Yeah,
Yorkie, the actor who plays Yorkie, Archie Yates, I think is his name.
Yeah, as much as I don't want to
Awesome.
see Home Alone be remade, I'm cool with seeing that kid in the lead role.
He would be great.
He's
Absolutely.
playing him.
Yeah,
It's coming out on Disney Plus, I think, next year.
He's hilarious, and he has like a really good presence to him that I think that'll be a good role for him. I mean, hopefully they do it a little bit differently. They reinvent it in some way, but yeah, I mean, great movie. I'm trying to think where I watched it. I think HBO Max. I think that's where I watched it. So if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm almost positive it's on HBO Max. I've been kind of living on HBO Max as of late. So I guess I'll.
Yeah, Doug, what do you got?
So I'm sure you guys have heard of this show on Netflix. I'm back on the Netflix train as of late. In addition to HBO Max, and I've been watching the show Dark. Which
I've heard of it, but I'm not too familiar with it.
Yeah, so it's a pretty popular show on Netflix. It's in another language, so I want to say it's like some sort of, maybe it's German that they're speaking. So you have to watch it in subtitles, and it's the format of the show deals with time travel. So a lot of the show revolves around this small town that is connected in time to certain other periods of time, and how that plays into the overall plot of the story. It's a very slow burn. I think it takes like a few episodes before you even know who the characters are and what's going on in the story. But I'm on episode 7 right now of the first season, and I'm trying to leave a lot of information out just because I don't want to spoil anything if you guys plan on watching it. But the time travel aspect is done really well. There's parts of it that remind me a lot of Back to the Future, but it's a lot darker than Back to the Future. Like the things the concepts that are being played with are played with in a similar way to Back to the Future, but there's no DeLorean. There's another way that characters travel through time, and it's darker, and it's a plot line, but it's not the entire plot. There's other interactions between the characters. There's other things going on, and the time travel just kind of plays one part of it. But I don't know if you're looking for a new show to watch. That's got time travel, that's got interesting characters, and you don't mind reading subtitles, and you don't mind a slow burn, I think this is a show I would definitely recommend checking out.
If only there was enough time in the world to watch every TV show all of us recommend,
Right?
but it's not humanly possible.
This is
I'll check out the trailers based on what you've been talking about.
I've heard a few. It's very cinematic the way that the movie was filmed. It almost sometimes feels like a movie, but it's very well done. I think probably the biggest turnoff for a lot of the American audience is going to be the fact that they have to read subtitles. But it's really good, and I had heard about it from a few different people, and I finally decided to just sit down and watch it. It's good. I can confirm it's good, and it kind of scratched the time travel itch, and kind of felt a little bit like Back to the Future. Although, like I said, it's much darker.
All right. Well, let's move on to JP's pick for the week.
So this week I started Halloween season a little bit early, and I watched Sleepy Hollow, which is not really a Halloween movie. It's kind of a Christmas movie because it takes place at the end of the year. And it's also not really a movie about ghosts too much. It's more of a murder mystery involving a ghost and a demon and whatnot. I remember seeing this film in theaters when I believe we were 12, Murph?
Yeah, 12 or 13. 12 and 13.
You were
depending
young.
on when we were born.
And I remember your dad buying us tickets. I think it was after
it was a Sunday.
Some CCD thing. So then we watched a bunch of people get their heads chopped off.
It's the Sabbath. I mean, you have to just
my wife had
stuff like that.
Got it right. My wife had never seen this movie, and she actually not recommended it. She suggested it. I said, "Hell yeah!" I mean, if you're in the mood for a little bit of a mystery and the fakest blood you've ever seen in your entire life, then this movie is for you, because I think Tim Burton got a real good deal on ketchup, because the blood in this movie is so thick and red, it kind of takes you out every time someone gets murdered. And it stars his man crush, Johnny Depp. This was sort of in the middle of their wild ride until it crashed to the ground with Willy Wonka and Alice in Wonderland. And he does a great job in this. The acting in this movie is great, and there's a lot of really good actors hidden throughout this movie because they're all wearing wigs and makeup. There's Christina Ricci is the Katrina Van Tassel. Dumbledore's in it. He's Baltus Van Tassel. Michael Goff plays one of the guys in the village. I forget exactly what he was. I think he was the notary. Yeah, Alfred. And
it's got a few
Tim Burton doing his thing.
Sith in the film.
It looks like it's him. It does, because the Emperor's in it, right? And then Christopher Lee
and Ray Park.
And Christopher. Oh shit! Yeah, because Ray Park. Yeah, I forgot Ray Park's. I didn't forget because I said it about eight times when we watched the movie. Because I loved Ray Park back then. All
the flying and the magic.
Even X-Men. All the flying and the magic. It still holds up really well to me. I love this movie. It definitely gets you in the spooky mood because it is a weird, twisted world of upstate New York. And it captures the mood really well. And they take a couple liberties, making Ichabod Crane's not a school teacher anymore. He's a detective. And I think it really works. I highly recommend it if you're trying to get in the spooky mood. This is a good one to ease into with.
All right. And then as for myself, this past week, I watched The Talented Mr. Ripley. I actually had it on my DVR, but I did look, and it is still on HBO Max, whatever your preferred app is that you have. But for you guys who aren't too familiar with the film, this came out back in 1999, which is like considered the one of the best years of movies of all time. But it stars Matt Damon, Jude Law, Gwyneth Paltrow, Kate Blanchett, Philip Seymour Hoffman. Actually, while I had it on my DVR for the past year, the fact that we talked about Philip Seymour Hoffman a couple weeks ago, that was kind of what sparked me to watch this film over the weekend, because I heard he had a really good performance in the film, which, spoiler alert, he does. But basically, the film is about a sort of con man type character, played by Matt Damon. He's Tom Ripley, the title character. He's somebody who, while doing a job, he has to befriend Jude Law's character, and then eventually sort of becomes obsessed with him, becomes a really annoying kind of presence. I'm going to spoil the mid-story twist because you really don't understand what the movie's about otherwise. But he ends up killing Jude Law's character and becoming his character. So it's the back half, last hour and 15 minutes of the movie is kind of dealing with the aftermath of him becoming Jude Law's character and how he's trying to get away with it and everything like that. Jude Law's character is like from a rich family. He's overseas in Europe with his girlfriend at the time. It takes place back in, I don't know when it takes place. 1950s, I want to say. So that's how, I mean, you couldn't get away with something like that in the digital social media world, but back then, I guess you can. It was based on a book written in the 50s, so yeah, it takes place in the 50s. Yeah, great performances all around from everyone. I mean, this was kind of when Matt Damon was becoming a big star in his own right, and Philip Seymour Hoffman was still a character actor. Jude Law was just becoming known. He probably gave the best performance, I'd say, in the movie. I never really kind of understood his why he got so many roles back in like the early 2000s, like what he did to prove himself to get all those roles. This was the movie that did it. Like, he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Gwyneth Paltrow gives a fantastic performance as Jude Law's girlfriend, and Kate Blanchett, I think, was somewhat known at the time, but not like as anywhere near as big as she'd become in the 2000s. She gives a nice supporting role as somebody who's a rich socialite who kind of falls into Matt Damon's world. But it's definitely something I would recommend. It was nominated for 5 Academy Awards. Like I said, Jude Law was nominated. The screenplay was nominated for Best Adapted. And yeah, it's creepy, but it's a good thriller. I think you guys would enjoy it.
Yeah, I've never seen it. Never seen it. I definitely should add it to my short list. I feel like I should have seen it by this point.
Yeah, that was my feeling as well, as I should have seen this.
Just kind of slipped by.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either. It's a movie I'm sure we've, like everybody else, I've heard about a lot. I knew the actors that were in the movie, but I had a general idea of what it was about. But yeah, I've never seen it either. So just have to add that to the list. You said it's available on HBO?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll definitely check it out then. So is Jude Law British in this movie?
No.
And is Matt Damon doing a British accent? Okay.
They're both American.
Okay.
Jude Law's he moved overseas after college. I think he went to Princeton, and Matt Damon meets Jude Law's dad and introduces. Well, the dad thinks he went to Princeton because he's wearing a Princeton jacket, and then he ends up going along with it, being like, "Oh yeah, I went to Princeton and all this stuff." And I knew your son, blah 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 blah. And then the dad has him go pays him money to go overseas to try to convince his son to come back home.
Interesting.
So yeah, despite the fact that they're in Europe, everyone is playing Americans. Kate Blanchett's got an American accent. Philip Seymour Hoffman is playing like the snootiest fucking Princeton asshole in the world. He's so funny in it. But yeah, it's
cool. I'm glad Matt Damon's not doing a British accent. I feel like that wouldn't be good.
Yeah, I don't think it would be good either. And it's a very different role for him from what I've seen him in afterwards. He is not a Jason Bourne type character or an Ocean's 11 type character or anything like that. But cool. We can move on then to two things that you and I both watched, Doug, from the past week, which are the latest episodes of Lovecraft Country and The Boys. We could start with Lovecraft Country. Corey, you're what now? Did you watch the?
I'm caught up.
Oh, you're fully caught up?
I'm caught up.
Okay.
Yeah,
sweet.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. We were texting about it last night.
The
JP
boys,
was the only.
The boys I have.
JP's one episode behind. But yeah, the three of us are caught up in Lovecraft Country. All right, let's talk about that first, and then Doug, you and I can get into The Boys. Corey can take his headphones off if we want to talk spoilers at all.
Spoilers sounds good.
And JP will as well. But yeah, Lovecraft Country. So yeah, another week, another completely different tone and genre. This one dealing with with body switching, but in a very strange way. Where it's kind of like I don't know, what was the comparison they used? A butterfly and things like that with coming out of
like a metamorphosis
coming out of a cocoon or whatnot.
Yeah, but to me, it's less like a butterfly coming out of a cocoon and more like friggin' like the chest burster coming out of like Alien.
Yeah, that was more based on the amount of blood and guts.
What a horrific thing. If I was in that position and like I went through that once, I'd be like, all right, I'm good. I don't need to do that again.
Yeah, I mean, Ruby got used to it. She did it plenty of times. I mean, you could tell like after the first time, she was like, I'm not doing this again.
She got used to it.
But then it was like, you can do a lot of different things in white America or in America as a white woman than you can as a black woman in the 1950s also, right?
Yeah.
And just kind of for viewers that haven't, or listeners that haven't seen this episode, what we're talking about is one of the I guess fairly main characters.
Yeah, she's billed as like a main character. Is
a black woman who gets through a potion the ability to change into a white woman who's a character in this show taking place in what, the 60s?
That's what, yeah, I don't know. Is it the 50s or 60s?
I
50s, 60s?
No, it's definitely the 50s.
Okay, the 50s.
Late 50s, I think late 50s.
So obviously she can do a lot more, has a lot more advantages as a white woman in the 50s, white Jim Crow 50s versus being a black woman. But yeah, by far their weirdest episode, but in a good way. I mean, I'm not saying that in a bad way, but definitely they did a lot of stuff I didn't expect in this episode.
And it was fun that they picked a character that hasn't yet seen anything weird yet. Like, yeah, she was in like the haunted house a couple episodes back, Ruby, but she hasn't seen anything like what her sister or the other leads on the show have seen so far.
And how does it, I mean, I get it's magic and we don't necessarily, that's kind of the answer to how everything works is usually in these types of shows is it's magic. But that character that she turns into was a character that was alive.
That was in
a few episodes.
Second episode, yeah. So I think
right, that died, right?
Yeah, I think in order to turn you, like, I imagine it has a different a potion juice for every person. Maybe they got because that character had died in the second episode, they got blood or whatever they needed from that person, so somebody else could then become them later on. I won't talk about the spoiler at the end of the episode for those who haven't watched it yet. But based on how it ends, that's what gives me. It opens up another can of worms for who somebody else could be on the show, based on other people using the potions and things like that, and what that means for a different character.
Yeah, I know you and I both, Murph, when we were talking, I'm sure Corey had like the same question in his mind of how that character fit into the story prior. It definitely opened up a lot of questions, and I almost wanted to go back and rewatch seeing one of those characters interact in those first couple of episodes, just to see, like, maybe see it through a different lens than how I had seen it before. Another big thing was the reveal with the father. The father had like a interesting arc.
Yeah, they had hinted at.
Unexpected.
Well, they had hinted at it last week. Not even hinted at it. I mean, they had one of the other characters, kind of basically say to Tick that his dad was hanging out with one of the gay bartenders that was on the show earlier in the season. So kind of.
Oh, I missed that.
I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, when they were in the museum, he made the comment about that. So based on how the like synopsis of the episode on HBO was, I was like, okay, it definitely is going to get more into that this week.
Yeah, it definitely did. I liked the way it was shown. I liked a lot of like the camera work and the music involving that relationship. I thought was really well done and interesting.
And Doug, you watched The Wire, like at least the first season, right? Or most of the first season? You saw some of it, right?
I don't know where I cut out on The Wire, but yeah, I cut out at a certain point just because it's so boring.
Oh, God. Let's not even get into that right now. But Michael Kenneth Williams on that HBO show also played a gay character, Omar Little. But, I mean, completely different. Like, he wasn't, like, closeted in the 50s. Like, he was just the biggest badass in Baltimore, and he just happened to be gay at the same time. So it was pretty interesting seeing, like, the difference between his character on Lovecraft Country, who's very much like ashamed of who he is and everything like that, versus how he was on The Wire, where he would absolutely fuck people up if they did anything to like his lover or anything like that. He's just a fantastic dramatic actor and really can do everything.
I thought he did a great job in that episode. I thought it was still a good episode. They're willing to go weird. Each episode's gonna feel very different from episode to episode. I think we've learned, and may not advance the plot too much. But I'm still digging it. I still like it.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely losing me a little bit. I'm still interested, but now I'm more so interested to see where it's going, because I have no idea like where the show is going, by the end of the season. So I'm kind of just along for the ride at this point, but definitely still enjoying it to an extent. I have a feeling based on how the season ends, how it ties everything together, I'll definitely, have a different verdict, and I'll probably end up going back and rewatching the season probably sooner than later after that, knowing whatever happens by the end of the season. So
I have to imagine they'll kind of put everything in a neat bow tie by the end of the season, for what we've been watching thus far.
I hope so.
But I mean, so far I'm invested in the characters at this point. And it's kind of fun watching what kind of crazy shit is just going to come about in each new episode, because they're so different from the one the week prior.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then Doug, you and I watched The Boys episode 4. So Corey and JP, if you don't want to hear anything in relation to that, don't listen. But fuck, man, I love this episode. It was
it's by far the weirdest.
Oh man, it's so strange. Like, and I love when it just gets weird. Homelander is just becoming like better character by the week. The more deranged she gets, the more interesting. And just the performance by Anthony Starr is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, he's in my opinion, he's always killed it. But yeah, that character has definitely gotten more and more crazy as that show has gone on. I mean, this was the episode where he's like, well, I mean, I guess every episode he's been drinking the breast milk.
This one he's really drinking it again in a weirder fashion than usual.
Yeah, the way I don't know how they got that performance out of the way he drinks the breast milk, but I wouldn't have thought of that being a way to drink it. But it's really uncomfortable to watch, but like such a great performance.
I really liked. We talked about this last week. Laz Alonso's performance as Mother's Milk. I'm liking him more and more by the week at this point.
Yeah, what do you think about like the little getaway between?
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I liked it too.
I thought the car ride and singing Billy Joel was.
We didn't start the fire.
It was just a very kind of sweet scene, and then very funny when Mother's Milk was just like, "Stop! Like this is not a date.
Yeah.
Like, relax." And just everything that he.
We got a little bit more backstory to that character.
We got more backstory, which was nice. I think he's gained the most from season 2 than what he had to do in season 1.
Yeah, he definitely got one of the most character development in this past episode, because we got his backstory. We got to kind of see him interact with Starlight, and they kind of had this story where they both spoke about their fathers, and it was really thought it was a really great scene just because they had this commonality, and it kind of showed you a little bit more about who these characters are and like what makes them who they are. So I thought that scene was really cool, and it was just like a nice break to just hear people on the show be people instead of these
cynical,
larger than life characters.
Assholes.
Yeah, there was for as much as I did like this episode, one of the weirdest or strangest things as far as pacing and overall story to me was Butcher's storyline.
Yeah, I mean, last week I talked about like maybe by the end of the season they'll reunite. They didn't waste any time with that.
But it was just like it felt weird, and I don't know how they're going to address it. First of all, that's a big part of Butcher's motivation was to find his wife. So it's like now what? And maybe that's why they did it, is they felt like Butcher needed to do something else other than just
be driven. How he needs to find his wife.
Yeah, just talk about like because last season was all about how he needed to avenge his wife. And this season would have been him all season talking about how he needed to find his wife. And so maybe they just wanted to take the character in a different direction. But it just felt weird, him finding her. The scene didn't really feel like it had as much weight as I thought it would. And then like her like excuse for not being able to come with him, I thought was
weak sauce.
Just kind of, yeah, it felt kind of weak.
Yeah.
It felt like just an excuse for her not to be resolved is kind of how I felt.
Yeah,
to me, that was the weakest part of the episode.
Yeah, and that probably has. I mean, the fact that they reunited them so quickly in the season definitely is part of why they're procrastinating with her actually going with them. But between that and then finding out more about Stormfront, they wasted no time in dropping some huge bombs on who she really is, and kind of delving into that character and what makes her different from everyone else. Yeah,
I liked it too. From what I've read, and I try not to read too much in the comics ahead of time, but from what I read after the fact, it is somewhat faithful to the comic. So that's cool. I did like where they went with it, and the more they kind of just like breadcrumb out about her, the more I kind of want to know more about who she is and why she is the way she is.
Exactly. And I mean, it's really helping with the whole weekly way of watching it. Like, you're like more eager to find out like what it is, like what the deal is, and you have to wait and gets the excitement up. I'm loving the weekly.
I really like the weekly too. I saw an interview this morning with Eric Kripke, the showrunner of The Boys, and they were talking about this weekly format, and it was actually, first of all, where I had said last week or that I thought all 3 episodes were where it was designed that way.
First episode,
yeah, to do that just because the first 2 were kind of dealt with the aftermath of season 1, and then the third one really kind of left you hanging. Apparently, that he said that was a happy accident. They didn't plan for it at all.
Oh, wow.
It just kind of like worked out that way. But he was the showrunner, so him, and then he said the producers, which are I think Seth Rogen and
Evan Goldberg.
Evan Goldberg were the 3 that pitched to Amazon to do the weekly, just because they thought it's a better format, especially for this show. And they kind of had to convince Amazon to do it. So they weren't trying to be a Mandalorian Disney Plus and get subscribers. It was really the showrunners that just thought it was the best thing for the show, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm digging it. It gives me time to think about the things that happened last week and kind of marinate a little bit on it.
It does seem like they are dropping them at 9 p.m. Eastern weekly. On
Thursday, right?
Yeah, versus waiting until midnight. They did it at least for the first 3 episodes and for the 4th episode. So at least I'm just happening to go on at 9 o'clock. Maybe they're even coming on earlier. But I know this Thursday I'll definitely be watching it earlier in the night or tomorrow night since we're recording this on Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to pop on too and just kind of see how that plays out. The only final thing I want to say about The Boys is that ending scene was one of the most disturbing scenes I think The Boys has pulled off and shown.
Yeah,
I mean that kind of says a lot. They definitely raised the bar with that particular scene. It was a little uncomfortable to watch just because of what it was.
Yeah, I mean,
but at the same time, I think it actually did further the character somehow, which is
it did further
kind of crazy. Yeah, it's crazy that they pulled it.
It wasn't just for like shock,
but it was shocking. But like somehow they managed to tie that into where it was like, oh wow, this actually furthered the character while being incredibly shocking.
Yeah, and I mean the doppelganger reveal early in the episode, I died laughing during that entire exchange.
Yeah, I'm glad they brought that back because we did see doppelganger in season 1
exactly,
and so we knew he was out there. So it was good that they did that as a callback.
And then one last thing I want to note about the episode: what did you think about the structure of it, the formatting with the various interviews about love, like straight to the camera from the various females who we'd never seen on the show before? Did you have any idea what was going on?
No, I had no idea what was going on. I was just like, who are these people that are kind of giving some of them were pretty humorous, the things that they had to say to the camera. But yeah, no, not until they got to that towards the end of the episode was I when they reveal what it is that I was like, oh, okay, that was what was going on. Mm-hmm. And maybe had it been, I think that was a callback to or that was brought up in the episode prior, but I just didn't really remember that. And so maybe had I binged it, that would have been something I saw. But no, I had no idea what was going on. Did you?
No, not a clue. I was happy they got funnier as they went along because at first I was like, what is going on? This is very different for the boys. But the reveal of what it was pretty funny with the deep. And I'm excited to see what happens with him and his arranged Scientology marriage moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. I'm excited for the next episode to drop. I think
Yeah.
so far so good.
Yeah,
We're like
exactly.
about halfway done with the season, but so far so
We're
good.
halfway done, but it's only been a week. Now we got at least another 3 weeks to be excited about it.
Exactly.
So we'll talk more about episode 5 next week, but let's move on to our feature presentation. All right, so as we talked about at the beginning of the episode, what we are going to be talking about is our favorite football teams on film. It doesn't matter what level of football they play. It could be Pee Wee football, college football, high school football, the pros. It doesn't matter. We're just talking football and our favorite teams. So we're going to go in no particular order. We'll just run through a bunch. And after this, we'll do some stuff on social media, get people's opinions as well. Maybe do some sort of a bracket where you guys can vote on who you think would win in a bunch of different matchups and over the next week. And I think it'll be fun. We want to get some engagement, interaction with you guys. So let's dive right into it. Corey, I know you're a huge fan of this first one. Talk about the Little Giants.
Yeah, I mean, this movie has always been like a favorite of mine amongst the films that I used to watch as when I was a kid. I mean, you have Ed O'Neill in probably one of my favorite roles of his, other than probably Wayne's World, I think. And I mean, Married with Children, of course, but he's great as like just this sarcastic and witty villain coach. And then you have Rick Moranis, who, I mean, anything that Rick Moranis is in is awesome. He's just like the special child that he is, an actor that we don't have in this world anymore.
It's coming back.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he's kind of coming back. Ryan Reynolds.
We will be talking more about Rick Moranis in our 1989 segment, so don't you worry. We'll talk much more about Rick Moranis before this episode concludes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a timeless movie for me. I don't watch it every year, but I try to watch it when it's on TV, usually pretty often. I think the kids are great in the movie, and it's just a dumb, fun football movie. It's very enjoyable.
Yeah, you got Icebox, you got Kid with the Glasses, you got Probably Fat Kid. It's just such a typical 90s movie. Is it Devin Sawa is the quarterback, the main kid?
Yeah, he is. There's actually, I think, quite a few actors other than him that kind of went on to do other random things.
Yeah, I was never big on Little Giants, to be honest.
I'm not a big fan. The mere fact that it's named after the Giants makes me not like it.
Like, I was all in on Mighty Ducks, Sandlot to a degree, much more the older I got. But yeah, fucking Little Giants never really did anything. But everyone seems to say Icebox was like awesome.
Yeah, she kicks some ass. And
what was she, a running back? Or
was she a fullback? I thought she was a fullback.
I don't even know. All I know is Spike and Icebox lined up across from one another. It's a fun little thing because you got both coaches and they're brothers, right? So it's a big brother and a little brother. One owns an auto business and the other one's kind of a loser.
Yeah, Rick Moranis is a beta boy and Ed O'Neill's like a fucking
jock boy.
Yeah, jock.
Yeah, and
he's
then
an alpha.
And it's the underdog story, which most of these are just the underdog stories because, I mean, I guess you can't really have a sports movie without an underdog winning. There's one on here I know for a fucking fact that the underdog does not win. What a weird movie that is, but yeah, it's a fun little movie. The football in it, not the best because you're watching a bunch of little kids run around.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's kind of up there with Sandlot. I definitely like Sandlot more, but it's that type of just silly kid sports movie that I don't know.
I might even like it more now as an adult, just because I like Ed O'Neill like a lot now from Modern Family. Yeah. I wasn't very familiar with him like in 1994 when this movie came out.
Not a big
obviously-
Married with Children fan.
I've never watched Married with Children as a kid.
That's a good show.
Put this movie on your list, Murph, because I'd like to see your reaction to it now.
Is it
Put it on your short
if it's
list
on
of films.
if it's on a streaming platform, I'll check it out.
Put it on your goddamn list.
Put it on your list.
JP, what was the film you were talking about in regards to the underdog losing?
Friday Night Lights.
Friday Night Lights.
They lose at the end.
Yeah,
And for all their faults, they couldn't beat, what is it, Dallas Carter that comes out at the end, and they're all grown ass men. They're like all 6'7", 300 pounds, running like a 4.5. Just beat the shit out of the. What I always get the movie and the TV show mixed up because I've watched the TV show far more. It's the Permian Panthers in the movie, right?
yes, and then it's the Dillon,
Dillon
Panthers
in the show.
and the
Two
East Dillon Lions or West Dillon Lions.
East
on the
Dillon
show?
Lions, yeah.
East Dillon Lions.
So-
Yeah, and then they become the West Dillon Panthers.
Yeah, and Friday Night Lights, in the movie, you got an inferior coach in my mind. You got less heart than Kyle Chandler, but you got Billy Bob Thornton leading them into battle.
Well, I mean, only Kyle Chandler has full hearts.
I mean, the fullest of hearts. Same wife in both movies.
That was an interesting move.
Yeah.
To go with having Connie Britton play the wife in both of them.
I tell you, it confused the shit out of me.
She didn't get much to do in the movie, from what I remember.
No, she did.
Well, she's basically like a co-lead on the television show.
And then Buddy Garrity's in the movie as well.
Mm.
He plays a smaller part. I think it's sort of the same deal. He's just a booster.
Did they find him at like a high school football game and decide
God,
like,
I fucking hope
hey
so.
man, you're on our show now,
He's so
or
good.
you're in our movie now, and then you're going to be on our show.
Man, I really hope so. I just want to believe that he is just some like Texas booster that they pulled off the street, and they're just go play yourself, man. It's all good.
I will.
'Cause he's great in both these.
The movie had balls. I mean, having them lose in the state championship. I mean, it was based on a true story. Correct me if I'm wrong.
There's a whole book.
The book was based. Yeah, the movie was based on the book, which was based on actual events.
Yep. Living out. In
It's
West
not
Texas.
satisfying to watch it, like the team that you've been following the entire time lose. But I always will give people props for actually having the balls to do it.
It's not really a satisfying movie. It's
fucking
really
miserable.
gritty. Yeah, Booby Miles
especially-
screaming at the top of his lungs. His uncle.
Especially the end where it goes through like what they all became, and it was just like, God damn, this sucks. Thank God for
One
the
guy went to,
television show. It's so much more uplifting.
I think one of the guys went to Harvard or something like that at the end of it. One of them goes to a really good school, and I don't.
Did he like trip and die like on his
No,
graduation day?
I mean, most of them don't like. It's not like when you freeze frame and it's like this guy died, she died, they all died. It's more like this guy's an insurance salesman in Dallas. Which, I mean, I don't think we have anyone listening from the not Waco. What the fuck am I talking about? Like Odessa area out in West Texas, but I mean Dallas is pretty nice compared to the oil fields of West Texas. But man. Yeah, I mean, that was their day. That was the crowning achievement of most of their lives. And it's rough, but man, that's life sometimes.
Even when they did the TV show at the end of the first season, when they were like on the cusp of being canceled and stuff, in the finale they won, right?
They win, yeah. So they made them win in
flip-flopped
season 1.
in that. I mean, they had plenty of seasons where they lost and didn't win championships, but it was interesting how they flip-flopped between the sad ending of the movie and the amazingly happy ending of season 1.
Yeah, the TV show is pretty amazingly happy compared to the movie.
Just
I
a
think
great,
that's why I like
just
to
a
watch
great
it so
TV
much.
show.
It's a fantastic TV show. I actually found my box set the other day. I'd already watched it this year though, so
That's
I'll
a
wait until
show I've never
2021.
seen.
well, you should
That's
probably
a
watch
show.
it. I've watched it 7
As a
times.
former high
Yeah.
school football player, I'm sure you would love it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And
I
just
will.
as a former high school person, you'll love it as well.
That's true.
You don't have to
as-
have played football.
As someone that, I mean, I didn't play football. I was like all of 115 pounds wet. But man, I wish it did. I wish I was about 7 inches taller and weighed like maybe 100 more pounds. That'd be nice. I'd go hang out with Coach Taylor. So yeah, I'm taking the the Friday Night Lights TV show team over the movie team, but the movie team's still pretty good.
You're not the first person that said that to me. I mean, I've definitely heard that before, that the show is way better than the movie.
Yeah, I guess it depends on really what you want to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, do you
How
want
many
to watch,
seasons?
do you want to
How
watch
many
2
seasons was it?
hours, or do you want to watch 100 hours, or however many episodes?
How many seasons is it?
It's 5
It's not about how many seasons, Corey. It's about living a lifetime in Texas.
It really
High
is
school
great.
football.
I mean, Doug and Corey, I don't think either of you have watched it, so you should both get on that Friday Night Lights train eventually.
Okay.
It's going to make your life you're going to feel happier during those weeks that you watch it.
Hell yeah, you are.
And you get fucking great actors. Michael B. Jordan,
Oh, yeah.
Letty from Lovecraft Country. I'm just going
Yeah.
through the later seasons right now.
Yeah, that's all the later seasons right there. And you got Saracen, who was in such great movies as The Purge 2.
Oh, yeah. He was in
That's all I remember him in.
Anarchy, Purge Anarchy.
Purge Anarchy, of course. You got Taylor Kitsch of Gambit fame in
All 5
X-Men
seasons.
Origins Wolverine.
Yeah, you have Amy Teagarden from the first 5 minutes of Scream 4.
There you
Just
go.
lots of incredible actors.
Yes. You've already seen their other work. Now watch them do their best thing.
You guys sold it. Those that acting cast.
You watch for Kyle Chandler and Connie Britton. Let's be real. They are the most wholesome family on earth. They have their problems, but they get over it, man. And that's why the football is so damn good.
But I mean, I will say Friday Night Lights did the TV show, TV show and movie did much more realistic high school football than the next one we're going to talk about, which is Varsity Blues.
I don't want your life.
It didn't really reflect, I would say, our experiences playing football.
I can't even tell
back in
you
high
the
school.
last time I watched this.
Oh my god, it is just melodrama to the max. Like,
Yeah.
fucking John Voight as the insane coach.
Yep.
Paul Walker as the quarterback.
All the actors look like they're in their mid-20s, late 20s. Fucking Scott Conn looks like he's 30 as Tweeter, the wide receiver. And it is just a movie ripe for parody, which is why Not Another Teen Movie did it so well. I mean, you have one actor who literally was in both of them. He was Billy Bob in Varsity Blues, and then he was Reggie Ray in Not Another Teen Movie. And they just play on the whole him getting concussed and shit like that, like basically to death in Not Another Teen Movie. It's just fantastic.
It has a wonderful alum of Friday Night Lights and Jesse Plemons. I don't think he murders
Jesse
anyone in it.
Plemons is James Vanderbeek's younger brother in it, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
Yep.
He's the
he's,
the biblical freak.
He's Paul Walker's brother.
Oh, he's Paul Walker's brother? Okay.
Yeah.
Forgot Paul Walker was in that.
Yeah. He's the original quarterback.
It was very similar to Friday Night Lights season 1, where it has the starting quarterback get injured in like the first game, and then it's about the backup quarterback replacing him. And we got Sayerson in Friday Night Lights, and you got Jonathan Moxon, James Vanderbeek in Varsity Blues.
Yeah.
And
wearing number 4 because he's a huge Packers fan.
Is that a fact?
I believe so. It was for Brett Favre.
Yes, I figured Favre was the namesake behind the number 4. But,
Pretty sure he's a huge Packers fan. I know Timberlake is.
The Dawson, he's a big
The
Favre
Dawson.
fan.
Yo, you're the Dawson. Yeah, he's a Packers fan.
All right, well,
Let's go.
he's a Packers fan. He doesn't want your life, and
I don't want your life.
God, just the amount of steroids, them going to strip clubs when they're like 18, 17,
Oh, yeah.
allowed to.
They get like
with their
shit-faced
their
there.
teacher's a stripper. My God, man, it is just they're getting. Well, I mean, this is kind of realistic. Getting tanked at parties and stuff like that, but then getting on like completely fucking around with cops and things like that, and like again, this is Scott Conn, just like being the menace of the town, and They're able
Where
to do
does
whatever
this-
they want because they're in
Where does
Texas.
this take place again?
Oh,
in
they're in-
Texas.
oh, they're in
this
Texas.
is actually based in fact. I'm pretty sure you're allowed to do that if you're a good high school football athlete in Texas. I'm pretty sure you can do whatever you want.
This is based on true events.
I would not be surprised in some of the smaller areas.
I'm trying to think of anything else to
Shit,
highlight
dude.
about this film, but I mean,
Billy
we could
Bob
talk.
is dead, man.
We could talk more about he in real life.
Yeah, he died in 2016.
Oh shit.
He got really thin.
Oh yeah, I do remember that actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm losing a lot of
that's
weight.
sad. Poor guy. Rest in peace.
Yeah,
Ron Lester.
and I mean, Varsity Blues, to not their team movie, they also did the whole. Well, not so much getting the quarterback getting injured, but the quarterback getting benched. Jake Weiler, Chris Evans ends up
getting
being-
his wide receiver injured.
for getting his wide receiver murdered, essentially cut in half like it's a fucking machete. What is he, fourth string quarterback?
Yeah, I think he's the fourth string quarterback, but there's only two.
And he needs the power of
The wise
janitor played by Mr. T in order to get him back into the game, where things don't go any better for him.
No, they don't.
So
That's
unlike
such a good scene.
unlike Varsity Blues, where the backup quarterback leads the team to victory in the final game, overcoming the odds of the dickhead racist coach who's injecting steroids into his players. Jake Weiler just fucking blows it and kills Reggie Ray. So that's that.
Yeah.
But I think the only other high school football movie we had on our list was Remember the Titans, a classic Disney movie from 2000, dealing with, I guess, desegregation between the black students and white students, where they have to come together, be on a team together. So it being a Disney movie, obviously things, there's a happy ending in the end, other than the linebacker pretty much, I think he dies in the whole movie. They're at his funeral. Yeah, that is actually what happens. But other than that, yeah, he gets hit by a car, and then I think he dies of something else, like years after playing football, and then they all reunite for that funeral, kind of like our League of Our Own. The players all meeting up, and then the whole movie takes place in flashback.
I don't think I've ever seen this movie in its entirety.
Oh, it's great. I mean, Denzel, fantastic coach. Will Patton is the original coach and then gets bumped down to assistant because of the whole desegregation. And their relationship in it is great. I mean, I think they're probably the best 1-2 coach in any of these films we're going to be talking about. But
yeah, this was one that I've actually been thinking about recently. I want to return to. I wanted to see if it was on Disney Plus, but
I think it is. If it's not, it will be by the end of the year.
Yeah, because I saw the Mighty Ducks, and this movie came to mind, and I was like, oh, maybe this is on there, but I haven't actually checked yet. So it might be one of the ones I watch pretty soon. If it's there,
and it's got Ryan Gosling as a cornerback. He's a complete liability. He's not a good on man-to-man coverage, but it's funny that it's one of like his first movies out of being like on the Mickey Mouse Club and shit like that in the 90s.
Oh wow.
Is him being in Remember the Titans, and now he's one of our greatest actors of this generation.
I believe Donald Faison keeps mentioning that he's in this movie on the Scrubs podcast he does, just over and over and over again, that you should go watch. Remember the Titans?
Oh yeah,
Donald
he
Faison.
is in it.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he's in it. One of the dudes from The Wire is on it as well. He's basically he's the linebacker. Defensive end, Julius. He was Avon Barksdale on The Wire. But so when I eventually caught up The Wire, probably like 10 years after seeing this show or seeing this movie, I was like, oh shit, you were such a nice guy in Remember the Titans, and now you're a drug dealer. And like the big bad of the show. This is interesting. And Corey, you watched fucking Sons of Anarchy. The one dude, Ryan Hurst on that show. He was who did he play?
Oh yeah,
Opie.
Opie. Yeah,
He was
he's in Remember the Titans.
Yeah, he's Jerry Bertier, the one who dies.
Oh,
but I mean, he looked completely different. He was like clean
yeah.
shaven. He was supposed to be a high school student.
Yeah, wow. I didn't even.
Ethan Suplee, when that movie,
Yeah.
Great team. And Hayden Panettiere, that was like her, I guess, breakout role as like a child actress. She's Will Patton's daughter. Kate Bosworth is in it. Pretty stacked cast with up and comers.
I remember watching Remember the Titans on our bus to football camp. I don't remember which football camp in high school, but I remember watching it.
Oh yeah,
I
do remember
that. Might have been one of the last times I watched it, in all honesty.
Yep. All right.
Bring socks. Socks.
We can move on from high school to college football. I guess Rudy would be the most famous college football movie of all time.
Oh yeah.
Did you guys see what Joe Montana had just said recently?
Did not.
No.
He said that. Let me fact check. This was Joe Montana. Joe Montana, Rudy.
I said Joe Montana.
Yeah, I think it was Joe Montana. Either way, I'm going to pretend it's Joe Montana. He said that the whole thing with Rudy was like fucking players like playing a prank on him, essentially. Like the ones that lifted him off the field at the end were like, he's like, oh yeah, they were just the biggest pranksters on the team, so they were just fucking around with him, like carrying him off the field because he got to play and got like the one sack or whatever. Yeah, okay, it was Joe Montana that said it.
It
like,
I just found the article.
Like, Joe, what a dick! Like, why'd you have to break everyone's hearts?
Yeah, he was like, it was sarcastic.
What's the point of even saying that?
I mean, no one's talking about Joe Montana, so maybe now they're talking about Joe Montana. Let's take all the spotlight from Rudy. I could see that definitely happening. I mean, college kids are fucking dicks.
Yeah.
But
Poor Sean Astin.
Yeah, it was just a joke, I guess.
Were they all playing a joke on Sean Astin? Was the whole filming of the movie a joke on Sean Astin as well?
Probably.
Am I a joke to you?
He's lucky his career ever recovered.
Yeah, I don't know. That movie, Rudy's amazing. That's like, talk about a timeless football movie. I mean, I don't know if everyone here has seen it, but it's so good.
I've seen most of it.
I have not, but I know that when we talk about football movies, that poster, it just sticks in my mind.
Yeah, it's a great film.
And then the only other college football movie that I think we wanted to talk about today was fucking going back to Hubie Halloween himself, Adam Sandler, and the Water Boy as Bobby Boucher. Absolutely ridiculous, but definitely the most. I can't even say the most ridiculous of these movies, since we already talked about Varsity Blues and not another teen movie. But one of the most ridiculous football movies on the list.
It's actually not even the most. I mean, not even on this list. It's not the most ridiculous Adam Sandler football movie.
No.
That's true.
You got the longest yard.
Since we kept things between some form of like school level or professional football level, we did not include the convicts and the officers of the longest yard, which they did have a lot of talent. I mean, both teams had a lot of talent. You had Michael Irvin, Nelly, Terry Crews on one side. Then you had Stone Cold Steve Austin, Steve Nash, among others, on the parolee side. Interesting that Adam Sandler was, I guess, a professional football player at one point in that movie.
Yes.
A quarterback, nonetheless. That, I think, wasn't the best casting. I think the original film with Burt Reynolds made a little bit more sense.
Maybe back when quarterbacks could be a little more doughy. And
I mean, that was the era of fucking people like the Steelers
Namath.
quarterback, and
Terry Bradshaw.
Terry Bradshaw
Yep.
and Joe Namath, exactly. But
yeah, definitely don't see him. I mean, there was legitimate murder in that league because they killed the one guy, right? So, I mean, that disqualifies you.
yeah,
Can't have
it's
no murder.
rough. But going back to the Water Boy, I mean, you have one of the great coaches in football history.
Henry Winkler.
Yeah, Coach Klein. Absolutely
Overcomes insanity in a single season. And leads
in
them.
order because his playbook got stolen.
It's true.
But yeah, he overcomes his crippling addiction to women's shoes, and just being sad about the fact that his career essentially went to the tubes because his playbook got stolen by some very creepy old man type of what was he, like a Florida type coach?
No, what the fuck is it? What is Jerry Reed? He's like a legitimate country singer that what's his name? Yeah, Jerry Reed. He's country singer.
Red Bueller.
Coach Red. Yeah, he's just straight up Louisiana Bayou bash right there. The Mud Dogs and the what the hell is the other team's name? Shit, I should know this. I've watched this far too recently.
Doug, you don't have much to say about this, so you got to be like our fucking fact and stats guy who's just like pulling out these things because we did not do enough research into the names of the players and things like that.
Oh, it's the Cougars. It's is it the Cougars? I know it's the
the Cougars.
Yeah,
it's the Cougars.
The Cougars. Yeah. Man, I mean they go from a team that hasn't won a game in something like 20 years, and Bobby Boucher comes in, takes them all the way to the Bourbon Bowl, and they overcome a large halftime deficit. The hell of a team.
You think the film was also a critique or a study on student athletes? The fact that Bobby Boucher, some would say dim-witted, low IQ man, was able to attend a top-level school and play football?
I don't know if any Adam Sandler movie is a critique on anything.
Yeah, I think you're giving it too much credit.
Other than what the fuck you'll pay to go see in a movie theater. It's a critique on your wallet. But I definitely get it. Yeah, he's a kid that... I don't even think he's a kid. How old is he supposed to be in this movie? Because I feel... He's 27,
31.
right?
31.
I'm 31 years old, right? Because the Big Show makes fun of him.
Yeah.
In the beginning, what are you, kid? 9, 10. I'm 31 years old. So he goes from being this back bayou 31-year-old who doesn't know much about anything, and he does get an okay college. He doesn't go to the NFL. I assume he gets a college degree towards the end of it, even though all he does to pass his classes is tackle his coach and hit him with a baseball. But, his life is definitely better after playing football. It's
so it all worked
some
out.
really, really fun football, too, in this movie. Like, it's just a lot of big hits. It's over the top.
He tackles his long-lost father at the end.
He does.
For Boito.
He does. For Boito. No, his mom tackles him.
Oh, that's true. Yes.
Yeah, Kathy Bates tackles his ass.
I do like the enduring friendship of Kathy Bates and Adam Sandler. They were tweeting at each other last year a bunch around I think when Adam Sandler didn't get nominated for Uncut Gems, she tweeted at him. It was pretty funny.
Maybe she'll be in the worst movie ever made with him.
One can hope.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a weird friendship. It's Kathy Bates and Adam Sandler and also Henry Winkler. Adam Sandler's got some really weird friends. They're all like 30 years older than him.
If you do one movie with Adam Sandler, you're set for life.
You're in for life. Yeah. Like Peter Dante probably just showed up one day and he was just walking down the street, got pulled in there. Now they're best friends. And Jonathan Lundgren, who's the other guy that just doesn't leave his side.
Yep. And Alan Covert as well.
Yeah.
They're just his boys.
It's funny. It's great to see it. And, it's got all the hallmarks of a good Adam Sandler movie. His best tackler since Joe Montana. You know? I love this movie. I really, from like a football movie perspective, this is probably the one I'll go back and watch the most. Just 'cause it's so dumb.
Yeah, exactly. And then we have 2 movies in the pros. Neither of them based on actual NFL teams, since it's pretty tough to get those rights. But we have Any Given Sunday and The Replacements. So let's start with Any Given Sunday. Again, another movie spearheaded by a great coaching performance of Al Pacino, who gives some of the great pep talk speeches of all time in film. And then a pretty star-studded cast. I think this is this would be one of the best ones if you were to have a matchup. I mean, you've got Jamie Foxx as quarterback. He's coming in for Dennis Quaid. I mean, that's a good one too for quarterbacks. I mean, I guess Quaid was supposed to be sort of like the Dan Marino type, since it took place in Florida in the late 90s. So quarterback at the end of his run and then getting replaced. Only Marino did not get replaced by any one of great renown, a young up-and-comer after. But still. And then I think you had LL Cool J on the team.
Lawrence Taylor was on the team.
Yep. Jim Brown was your defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Aaron Eckhart, your offensive coordinator. Bill Bellamy from MTV. He was one of the wide receivers. Just a
great cast.
Yeah, well-rounded team. They even had James Wood.
T.O. was in it.
T.O. was in it?
Yeah, T.O. was in it, apparently.
No shit.
I've never seen this movie, which is insane because I feel like I would follow Al Pacino coaching me to football to hell. Like
it's an intense movie.
I'm going to go out there and sacrifice my body for Al Pacino's coaching. He'd be like, tackle him on.
I mean, that's more or less what it is.
I gotta see this. If it's Al Pacino hamming it up, that's all he does, right? He just hams.
He hams.
In every movie.
He hams.
Yeah,
I love.
I think you would like this if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's definitely something I want to watch. It's always been on the docket, but
and,
it looks great.
Mary Swanson's in it too.
Classic, and Cameron Diaz.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So it's basically all his. If Courtney Cox was in it, it could have been all of Jim Carrey's leading actresses from 1994.
It could have been.
Could have completed the trifecta. And then the last film we said was. What did we say it was?
The Replacements.
The Replacements.
Good old Shane Falco.
Yeah.
Keanu,
the Washington football
our
team.
boy.
John Wick.
I think
John Wick is
we've
quarterback.
Made it like an obligation that we have to speak about Keanu Reeves at least once every episode.
Probably.
The Replacements.
How can you not? He's the best.
This is honestly one where I don't like Keanu in it, and it always bothered me because he just seemed very dumb in this movie. He was just a little too goofy for me.
A little too Keanu for you?
Yeah, a little too Keanu for me. I didn't love him in it. I loved everyone else in this movie. I love Orlando Jones as the wide receiver. I love I forget who the guy's name is. The kicker, the English kicker who smokes on the sideline.
Oh, Nigel.
Yeah, Nigel Gruff.
Yeah, he's the highlight for me of the film.
Yeah, definitely. And then who was it?
Gene Hackman's in it.
Gene Hackman's the coach in this one. Yep.
A lot of great actors of yesteryear have been coaches in football films. Between Burt Reynolds in Longest Yard, Al Pacino, Any Given Sunday, Gene Hackman, Replacements, John Voight in Varsity Blues. I guess that's like
Denzel,
a thing.
Remember the Titans.
Remember the Titans. I guess that's like a trend. Eventually, when you're not in your leading man status anymore, you become a
coach of football
coach. Yeah, I mean it's a good gig.
Introduces
you to a younger audience.
Not even just football. You've got Ben Affleck with he was a basketball coach.
The way back.
Way back.
Yeah.
Emilio with the Mighty Ducks. I mean, it's a great way to introduce yourself to a younger audience, and then have them catch up on your filmography after the fact. Because
I know I've watched every single Emilio movie ever made after. I have not.
You didn't? What?
I didn't want to watch Young Guns, man.
Damn you.
I wouldn't do it. I said I wouldn't do it.
You know what's wild about Nigel, the actor who played Nigel? He was the Lizard in Amazing Spider-Man.
Yep.
That is
just realized that.
not
he was
amazing
also,
because that
he was also in
sucked.
Little Nicky too.
Yeah,
he was one of the Devil brothers.
Second shout out to Little Nicky.
Wait, Jon Favreau was in this? I don't remember that.
Favs.
Yeah, he was the deaf football player, right? No,
that's Roy from The Office.
Yeah, Murphy, right? Wasn't his last name?
Yeah, Brian Murphy.
I always connected with him from
is Roy.
Yeah,
Who
David.
the hell was Favreau in this movie? I don't remember Favreau.
I think he's a linebacker or a fullback. One of the two.
Oh right, no, yeah, he was the crazy guy from
Danny.
they got him from jail. They didn't break him out of jail, but they bailed him out or something like that. And yeah, he was the crazy linebacker. Wow, Favreau has changed completely as a just I guess that's how
human?
I see him. Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, he looks a lot different than he used to.
Yeah, he really does.
Even on when I was watching The Sopranos, it was like, oh, Favreau, you look like a different person.
Oh, and that asshole from Thomas Wayne in Joker and the guy in Dark Knight Rises who Catwoman abducts. He's the original starting quarterback of the team.
Oh yeah, he's a huge dick.
He strikes.
Yeah, Eddie Martell. He's got the wide ass soul patch. He's like, man, that was a cool movie. I mean, because we never got to live through the NFL strike.
Nope.
But I always remember my dad telling me that was like the first time in a long time that the Green Bay Packers were actually good, because it was the 80s, and everything from like the 70s, the 80s, and then the first year or two of the 90s was just bleak and horrifying. But they actually made the playoffs during the strike season, so that always struck with me, and I pray that we never ever get to see it, because I don't want to see Keanu Reeves playing quarterback for our team. Maybe Keanu Reeves now. Maybe John Wick Keanu Reeves. I'm all about. Like, he just stands on the sideline and doesn't say shit, and then goes in the game and throws one touchdown on one pass and just comes back out. I'll watch that. But goofy Shane Falco, I don't know about that.
Yeah, it was definitely a clever concept for a film.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like most people, when they talk about, if you're not into football, this is the football movie they talk about, because it has something for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's definitely appealing to a lot of people.
But yeah, with football back, this was just an excuse to shoot the shit about some of the ridiculous football movies that we've seen. As I imagine eventually we will talk baseball, basketball. I don't think there's much to talk about with hockey other than Mighty Ducks. But baseball and basketball definitely have a bunch.
And stay tuned for that golf episode where all we do is talk about Tin Cup and Happy Gilmore.
Without a doubt.
Yes. I'm all about that.
Yeah, shout out any other obscure sports you would like to hear about.
Dodgeball
being the first one that comes to mind.
Top 5 dodgeball movies of all time.
All right.
At number 5, I got Dodgeball, a true underdog story.
But yeah, like we said, we'll probably throw up some polls this week. I don't know what exactly we're going to do, but we'll figure it out, and I hope you participate in whatever we decide to do. But let's move on to our final segment of the yearly film series for the 1980s. Obviously, we're going to continue with the 1990s, but right now we are on 1989, so let's close out the year. Corey, let's hear your first pick.
Yeah. When I was looking at the movies for 89, I immediately saw The Wizard. And I had to pick this movie because this was another one where I definitely was not old enough to see it when it came out, since I was born in 87. It was 2, basically. But I liked this movie a lot when I was a kid because it's video games. and it's got what is it? Fred Savage, Ben
Yep,
Savage.
Fred.
I always get it mixed up with
It's
them.
got
So
the Wonder Year.
Christian Slater's in it. Yeah, I mean, it just follows a group of kids that on like a adventure to the Nintendo World Championship. And if I remember correctly, this is when they unveiled Mario World 3, right?
Super Mario Brothers 3.
Super Mario 3. And the glove, the power glove.
Oh, the glove.
Did anyone have the glove?
No,
I think my brother did, but I mean, Nintendo was kind of lost on me. Like I played it after the fact, but I didn't own one personally. Me, I think my brother had a power glove. What a terrible peripheral. But
yeah, they just velcroed a controller onto the wrist of the glove, and then there were some buttons on the fingers. Very strange.
And it was supposed to like have like pseudo like.
I'm sure the commercial made it look like amazing.
He probably shot lightning bolts out of his fingers. And
well,
do you guys remember that the one where you could play Mortal Kombat with your body, like, and you could kick and stuff?
The power pad. I think it was called.
God.
Yeah, I was like, how the fuck does this thing work?
It was awful.
I thought that as a kid.
And then there was one where it was it just had sensors where you just stepped in a ring, and
oh god,
yeah, I forgot the name of it. I'll have to look it up. But yeah, terrible peripherals of the '90s for video games. That's definitely one of them. But this movie was a product placement for that shitty peripheral. Like the main villain kid who was like going to the Nintendo Championship, he had the power glove, but he was the only one who had it. And he would wear it. I think he wore it throughout the entire movie. Like, he didn't take it off.
I mean, once you got it.
I guess.
Yeah, why would you take it off? Your hands gonna be all sweaty?
No. Yeah, I mean, it's a silly movie. I've watched it over the past maybe year or so, because it was on one streaming service. But really silly. Very nostalgic. If you're into old school video games and you haven't seen it, I would definitely watch it.
All right, Doug, what do you got?
I picked Weekend at Bernie's, and I haven't seen this movie in a long time, but I had to pick it just because of how ridiculous the concept is.
God, it's so good. The sequel's even better.
I love the sequel so much.
That these two guys pretend like a corpse is alive.
But Doug, they put sunglasses on him, man.
In the second one, he is. Because is it like a voodoo? That he gets a curse or something? I don't know.
Every time there's music, he dances.
Yeah.
I like how he attended some baseball games this year.
Oh yeah, they had him up in some of the stands there. I mean, there was a time where he attended almost every NFL game once they scored a touchdown, because that Bernie dance was big for a while. Fucking love that thing.
Oh, I don't remember that. It's just such a ridiculous.
I remember a lot of Bernie dancing at Doug's wedding.
Oh hell yeah, that's true. We did, yeah.
Oh man, but yeah,
you know what my favorite part of this movie is? The guy's wearing a suit with shorts in the beginning of it because it's so damn hot. Only in the 80s. I guess now they're like, I've seen
people
that
will do that
more
now.
And more. It's kind of horrifying. But yeah, just a full blazer with a shirt and a tie and then fucking shorts.
Doesn't Andy Samberg do that in Palm Springs?
Yes,
I did watch that.
I think maybe later, not
his original.
Yeah, not the original. I don't even know if he was wearing a suit, and by the time you get towards the end of his
That's true.
time in the loop, I think
he was
just wearing like a
Hawaiian
t-shirt.
shirt and a suit.
Nice.
Maybe in the middle when he was like transforming to Hawaiian shirt.
And I should note that there were a lot of like major films that we love and talk about a lot that we just made sure not to talk about just because we don't want to keep it on just the obvious. So Batman was 1989. Many of us would have chosen this film based on how important it was to us, as we had told you previously in a few episodes
Probably would have
back.
had to fight to the death for that, but COVID can't get into a ring together to fight. So
exactly, I think we've made it a mission not to talk about Back to the Future movies during these, and not that anyone would pick Back to the Future 3 in 1990, but I could definitely have pictured one of us doing Back to the Future Part 2.
I probably would have picked 2.
Yeah. And then we already covered Raiders of the Lost Ark, so we're not going to do Last Crusade. But just so you know, obviously we love these fucking movies. They're very important to us. But we're saving this time for movies like The Wizard and Weekend at Bernie's. Some of the lesser-known gems of their respective years. JP, let's hear what you got.
So they let me pick a powerhouse of a movie that everyone should know called Little Monsters. Corey, I got a movie for you. Can't tell the difference between Fred Savage and Ben Savage? Boom, it's got both of them in it. So they play brothers.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Yep. And Fred Savage is friends with Howie Mandel, who's a goddamn monster. And he's blue, and he's got horns, and he comes out from underneath his bed, and they're like, well, I think they become friends. I think he catches them, and then they go to the monster world. And
this movie terrified me as a kid.
It
terrified me.
If you stayed too long, nowadays. There was a ticking clock. Right? If you stayed too long, you were he was going to turn into a monster.
Yeah, so the little brother gets lost, and he's going to turn into a monster, and Fred's got to go in and save him with his army of children. It does not hold up.
Really?
At all. Yeah, I've watched it within the last couple years. The end is still fucked up. The last monster at the end where his face melts off is... what's the stuff of nightmares? I remember being terrified of that as a kid. I watched this movie a fair amount when I was little. It definitely was scary.
I did too. I remember the clothes on the floor. Right?
Yeah.
The monsters would take the shape of or wear the clothes.
They'd wear the clothes, but I think if they got hit by light, they turned into clothes on the floor. And then they had to crawl back under the bed. It's sort of a real precursor to Monsters, Inc. They just didn't fuel their city with scares, but they'd come up from under, I guess, the closet doors in Monsters, Inc. But it's real interesting, but it's a little boring. It's definitely made for kids. It's not one of those movies where you go back and you're like, oh, it still holds up. It's still pretty boring, but it's a very early sort of Monsters, Inc. type. Befriend a monster who's there to scare you, but then, go on some wacky adventures with them. But it's got both the Savage brothers in it, man. I'm looking at pictures of the last monster, and I'm fucking horrified.
Scary stuff?
Yeah, I may have nightmares tonight. It's okay.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry we did this.
That's all good, man. Yeah, if I get nightmares from little monsters, it's my own damn fault.
Just wait till Hubie Halloween.
It's going to be a week of just waking up in cold sweats thinking about Hubie Dubois on Halloween.
All right, and then like I mentioned earlier, let's talk a little bit more Rick Moranis. I've got a Disney classic, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. This was for a kids movie. I mean, it was incredibly special effect driven. Mostly from sets, set pieces that made it look like the kids were actually shrunken in someone's backyard. Did any of you guys go to the movie Set Spectacular in MGM Studios in Disney World when you guys were younger?
I was not allowed.
I think so. Was that where they did the?
It's where they
modeling.
They had all the models. It had you can go on the Kodak film and everything like that. It had the giant ants and shit like that.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
Super cool.
Yeah,
loved it as a kid. But you just got a great lead performance from Rick Moranis. I liked Matt Frewer from National Lampoon Senior Trip fame as the. And I think that's probably where most people know him from the trailer to National Lampoon Senior Trip.
He's the principal.
Yeah. He's their neighbor whose kids also get shrunk. So watching their relationship go throughout the movie is pretty interesting. Buffy's mom from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, also one of the moms in this film. But
it's a pretty weak cast for a movie that's pretty darn good.
Yeah, no, it doesn't have like. I mean, Rick Moranis was the only name really at the time. I mean, he was obviously known for SCTV, Ghostbusters, among other comedies at the time they made this. But yeah, less than 10 years later, he retired from film. And thank God this past week, the comeback tour has begun. Did you guys see the commercial for Mint?
I did now. Yeah.
Yeah. It's cool. Ryan Reynolds brings him out of retirement for a commercial, basically just to gawk at the fact that Rick Moranis is in his presence. So it's a nice, fun return for him. I don't know why he's not doing all like the Ghostbusters stuff from earlier this summer, but he's back. He's supposed to be doing a reboot of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids called Shrunk, where Josh Gad is going to play Nick Solinsky. And I believe it's going to be a similar concept where it's going to be his kids this time being shrunk. So it's kind of a legacy sequel more than a reboot. But yeah, I think the films just do a good job with dealing with the kids and how they react to being shrunk in being stuck in a backyard, which feels like a fucking jungle. Just getting from one end of the backyard to another between things like sprinklers, where water droplets are like fucking tidal waves. Scorpions are attacking them and your ant friend has to save you. Lawnmowers don't even get me started on lawnmowers.
The scariest thing possible in that movie. And
then Nick falling into when they get back to the house, falling into the cereal bowl with milk and Cheerios. Yeah. He almost gets it eaten. Just a fun thrill ride. You're never, I mean, I can't really call it a thrill ride, but it is a fun film.
It's pretty thrilling though. I mean, there's definitely the sense of danger and you don't want these kids to get, killed by a bee or an ant or something like that.
Oh yeah. I don't know if anyone's read, there's like a Michael Crichton Honey, I Shrunk the Kids basically.
What?
Where it's called Micro, and they get like super tiny through like a shrink ray, but it's like kind of like Jurassic Park. Like the insects are just like horrifying, and it's like a much darker Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
I'd imagine there's a fair amount of deaths in that if it's a Michael Crichton.
Oh yeah, there's tons of death by insect, and it's just like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids could have gone a completely different route.
Yeah.
Did you guys see
maybe it will.
Did you guys see both the sequels?
No, I
saw the second one.
I saw Honey, I Blew Up the Kid or whatever.
Yeah, that was like a theatrical release, which was a enjoyable movie.
I hated it in theaters.
It doesn't feel like a sequel. I hated it. Like I was just looking it up and I was like, was that the same was that like still the same character? And it is, but like it's not a whole lot of
a
cast.
New baby all of a sudden.
Well, it's the same. It's the same parents, and Nick's in it again, but he doesn't blow up. His baby brother does. The daughter's in it for like one quick scene from the first movie. It just doesn't have any of the neighbors from the first one in it.
Yeah, it just doesn't like feel like the
it's
same
got Carrie
movie
Russell in like the first thing I ever saw her in.
Really?
Yeah, I remember like seeing in theaters and kind of having a little crush on Carrie Russell.
Are they even in the same house?
They are not in the same house. They are rich after the invention.
Oh, yeah.
So they move from just like a normal... They kind of look like they're in like a Staten Island backyard. Or a house backyard. I don't know why I'm referencing Staten Island. But and then they're clearly in like a California suburb in the second one.
Yeah. I remember the tone of the movie just being completely different. It was more of like a stupid kids movie.
It was more of a kids movie, yeah.
Yeah, and I just didn't like that. I mean, I guess I would just watched Honey, I Shrunk the Kids one too many times. And when I saw the stupid baby blow up, I said, I'm out.
We were still even kind of young when that second one came out.
Very young. Yeah. What was it? Came out in like the early 90s?
Yeah, like 92,
92. 92.
Yeah, so we were only, 5-6 years old at the time.
Yeah, I was 5 and I wasn't putting up with that bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, we were already fucking with Batman and things like that. So, but yeah, then the third one went direct to VHS.
What do they do there? Just make people
They-
average height?
They shrink themselves. Honey, honey, we shrunk ourselves. So Rick
I think I've seen
Moranis
that.
is shrunk. But I didn't like it because it had like a base, other than the parents, it was like an all new cast. And it just felt like a direct to video movie.
And that's why he quit acting.
Yeah, that was like one of his last big things.
It was the last straw.
But he'll be back
How dare
soon,
you trick me.
and hopefully the new one will be much better.
It's worrisome.
But that's all we have for today, everyone. Thank you, as always, for listening. Please continue to like, follow, subscribe to the various pages we've got. Keep giving us your feedback. As far as new updates, check out our YouTube channel. JP's been doing some kick-ass graphic design work for all of our episodes, so the images on them are really cool. We'll get those on. Yeah, we'll get
Makes
those.
the episode sound better.
Makes us sound so much better. So re-listen if you already did, or just listen to it now for the first time on YouTube. But yeah, we'll get those images up on social media too, because I know I didn't even create them, but I'm very proud of them. But as always, this has been Corey, Doug, JP, and Murph at Live Breathe Film. We'll be back next week, and we hope you are too.